From the Hanging with Web Show TV's Bargain Basement Studio in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, it's Pillow Talk with Willow Schuyler.
Will you take me to Winnipeg?
I will, someday. Toronto, Montreal, Quebec, Winnipeg.
Now what's this guy doing up here in Manitoba?
He was holding the map up.
Every salvage mission that's been through this system has disappeared. Even those old pirates out at Winnipeg Drift say it's cursed.
Cursed. Winnipeg's got a great ballet. Have a good time, I swear to God.
Sweet guinea pig of Winnipeg! They've taken over our company!
Balderdash! I never agreed to that!
I should have stayed in Winnipeg, you know? I had a nice gallery, 3 paintings on the wall.
Are you kidding? And you look back. Born home, Quebec. Drafted out of the juniors in the 5th round to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Played for a year with the Leafs, then traded to the Winnipeg Jets, then to Calgary, then to Boston.
Wow.
So Winnipeg must get pretty cold up there.
That's it! Back to Winnipeg!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Willow's Pillow Talk. I am your host, Willow Schuyler, and with me today is Russell Allen.
Who dat?
Okay, is this your second time for the Kickstarter for your comic?
For my book, yes.
For your book, sorry, yes. Okay.
Yeah, so it's the second time around. Yeah, the first time we did a good run at it, but you know, it was a bad time. Christmas, Thanksgiving, plus everybody was hurting financially, so it is what it is.
But you did really good this time around, which is fantastic. I apologize. This is going to be all in Canadian funds, so this is going to look weird on your end.
Well, it'll look like a lot more, right?
Here is the Kickstarter. You have 52 backers. You have 27 days to go. So I'm not sure what what this translates in American funds, but $2,662 raised so far in Canadian funds.
$2,096.
Ah.
So it's only about $570 off.
But no, you did really good this time around, and I'm looking forward to seeing this get published and it coming out and actually having it in my hands and reading it. So,
yeah, thank you. No, you know, yesterday. Wow, let me put this up. So, you know, last year was just a crazy year for me. You know, I had the whole cancer scare in January.
I heard about that.
Yeah, I had a 3 by 5 centimeter mass on my spine. My grandfather had just passed away, 5 months prior from a spinal tumor. So, finding out that news was pretty detrimental, and it really affected Roderick too, because seeing my grandpa go into the hospital and him not come home, and then I go in the hospital for pretty much the same thing. So, he automatically had it in his mind that I was dying, and, so that was how we started out our year. And then January 31st, had a PET scan. They said significant evidence of malignancy. They farted around in February because they were really scared to do a biopsy because they're like, it's really close to your lung. It's really close to your spine. We're worried about it metastasizing into your lung if we puncture your lung, because they do a live CT biopsy. They do a guided needle under a CT scan. And they're like, we're worried if we hit your spine, we could paralyze you. So we're going to wait and see if it gets any bigger. Well, this whole time, I had a hard time getting around, and I came to the thought of, hey, what's the biggest thing I regret not doing? And it's like, I regret not doing this book, and the only reason I stopped doing the book was in 2015 when my son was born. He had to have open heart surgery. So dealing with his open heart surgeries and dealing with his cardiac caths and dealing with all that kind of stuff. And, over the years, I never had time for the book. My wife stayed home to take care of him. So, we knew he was okay because, daycares didn't want the liability of having him in their care. We didn't trust them to have them in their care. And so, we made the hard choice. My wife would stay home and I would work. So I worked, so many hours that I never really had a chance to work on the book. And, with the surgeries and stuff, I never could get in the right headspace. It was a real mind jumble having all that stuff happen.
Yeah.
So, I was like, I really regret not doing the book. I love the book. And, if I'm going to do something, I want my last thing to be, I kicked ass on my way out. And so I started Russ Explode Studios, and I started commissioning artists, and I got the book out of cold storage because I started writing it in 2010. So I like to use the joke that I get it out of cold storage. It sounds funny. And so, I got it out, and I was like, this book is good, but it can be better. So it's a 900-page novel. I broke it into 3 parts, and I did a major rewrite on book 1. And I'm like, this book was really good, but it can be better. Now I have that relationship with my kids over the last 5 years, 6 years now with Roderick. So I know, as the way that Raziel interacts with his kids in the book, it wasn't genuine. I changed that. Now it's genuine. The kids use the language that my kids use with me. And I use that to make it more realistic, make the characters more believable, and, really drive home empathizing with the character, making it realistic.
Yeah.
And so I commissioned all these artists, and I'm like, we're doing this. I did find out finally in September. So March, I was supposed to go in and have a CT scan. They were going to monitor the size of it. I had gone back to work because, I ran out of FMLA. You can't pay bills with air. So
Yeah.
I told my wife, I was like, I'm just going to have to suffer through, and I'm going to have to work. So my 3rd day back on my way home, a lady ran a red light and hit me, told my car. The airbag snapped my wrist back to my arm, and I had burns up my arm. And so I kind of stopped doing the book for a little while because don't let anybody ever tell you, oh, do speech to type. Yeah, I wanted to throw my computer across the room. I'm like, I would say the, and it'd be like, duh, or just stupid stuff. And it's like, I speak clear enough for you, computer. I'm gonna punch you in the face if I could. If you had one, if you had a face, I would punch you in it right now. And so I was like, whatever. We'll put the book on hold for a little while. So I persevered. I stayed on it. Even though I had all this stuff going on, and I used it as fuel, as rage, as fear, the angst, all that stuff. I poured it into the book because Raziel goes through some crazy shit, pardon my language, in his life, and it really shows. And that was one of the things that makes the book really good, is because this isn't just a character. This isn't just a book about a superhuman character that never has any faults and nothing bothers him. You're watching this guy go from a family man. He acquires the suit. This is the origin story that explains how the suit was acquired, why it was made, what it was made for. And it really, shows his transition from a family man to, I'm fighting for my life. I need to get back to my family. Does my family even still exist? Does the Earth still even exist? This attack happens while he's on the space station, and the space station is destroyed. An anomaly takes place, and he ends up somewhere that he has no idea where he's at. There's nowhere known on any known star charts. And so this is his struggles and his battles, him fighting for his life, him fighting to make it back to Earth. And there's little subtle hints throughout the book. Like, he's sitting in a chunk of the space station that was pulled through the anomaly with him, and he pulls out a picture of his wife and kids. And that's all that is said about it. You see the subtleties throughout the book. It switches at one point and goes to the wife and kids' standpoint. And it follows what's happening behind the scenes to kind of break up the monotony of the book and explain their story behind the scenes. So once he gets sucked through the anomaly, it switches over to his wife and kids, and you just get to see a glimpse of them, going to the funeral, and how the kids feel, and I used the way Roderick reacted to the fact that he thought I was dying as the way I worded how the kids felt about Raziel being gone.
Yeah.
So you really get the empathy on both sides. And then once that chapter ends, it goes back to Raziel, and it starts a story of, once this anomaly happens, what happens to him. And I don't really want to get into too much more of the story, but this is where Wyvernite comes in, which is the dragon that you see in some of the pictures. And that Wyvernite was a new addition. That was a complete rewrite. I rewrote the whole. I was probably like 90. Everything after 90 pages was a complete rewrite.
Okay.
Everything before that, it had a rewrite, but everything after 90 pages, I just deleted all of it and started over. So book
As
2,
writers do, I've done it with several of my own stories too, where it's like I'll come up with something in the middle of writing, and it's like now I have to change everything.
yeah, and so the story's written, and people have asked, when can we expect book 2? When can we expect book 3? I mean, 2 and 3 are done in the old story. So I'm still going to follow the same storyline. It's going to be the same things that happen, but now there's new additions, there's new people, there's the difference in emotion with the character, and all that needs to be fine-tuned. So I'm going to use the bare bone structure of book 2 and book 3 from the 900-page novel, and I'm going to reconstruct it and, rewrite book 2. So I'm thinking possibly, the book could be done by fall. It's all dependent on how often I can afford the commissions, because in 2020 everybody had it rough. I've been a person who tries to help out. I share artist stuff out there. I try to get them more work and show off their stuff. I'm a huge advocate for artists and creators. I do my own show in Rust Explode Studios, and so I was like, I never meant for it to be an illustrated novel, and I'm like, you know what? These artists are struggling for work. There's no cons. Do you want to do a commission for me? And I went through the list of people that I knew really well, some that I didn't know very well. And I'm like, hey, do you want to do a commission for this book? And, I want to bring more work to you. But I also, during this time that we don't know if cons are going to reopen again, I want to put your work in another format that people don't normally see it in. I mean, you're a comic book artist and your work is phenomenal. If I put it in a book, what if another author reads that and sees that piece and goes, wow, Wendy does awesome piece of art. I want her to do a cover for me. Or Chris McJunkin, or Steph Wilson, or David Fawd, or David Harrigan, any of the artists that are in there. So I was like, this is a great way not only to help feed their families, but to get their name out there and be a bigger advocate for their work by putting it in a new medium. And also it would bridge some of their customers that would say, hey, I'm a Steph Wilson completionist. Oh, he's got a piece in this book. I'll pick up a copy of it because I want the artwork that's in it. And then in the hopes that maybe these people too would read it and go, holy shit, this is really good. I want to read. I want to know what happens next. So it was a win for both of us. And so I was like, this would be awesome. It'll help, raise the bar a little bit with the book, get some notoriety behind it. And then I sent it to Brian K. Morris. Brian K. Morris was like, all right, I'll check it out. I'm really busy because we had a show with Indie Event last year. And so I sent him the book. I was like, here, read it, get a gist for it, like 2 weeks before our show. And Brian was like, all right, yeah, if I get a chance, I'll get to it. I might be able to skim the first few pages and at least get an idea what it's about. Well, like a week and a half later, I was having a really bad day, and it really made my day to hear from him. But Brian's like, hey, man, I just finished your book. He's like, and I loved it. I loved it. It was like a space opera. It was a pulp science fiction. It wasn't just a science fiction book. And he's like, I loved it. He's like, it was really good. He's like, there was a few things that, I seen in the writing style, because I'm not a perfect author. I have stuff I need to work on. But as far as the story went, he's like, it's freaking phenomenal. It really surprised me. And it totally made my day. I have all this other crazy stuff going on. And so it was really cool to hear that from him. And, Philip Russert's read it, and he was like, dude, I'm blown away. He's like, this is badass. He's like, it's not just a science fiction. It's a human story. He's like, it's really emotional. You can get emotionally involved in it. So, it's been a fun ride, and I've met a lot of really cool people with it. And with the whole cancer thing, like I said, I finally found out in September that I don't have cancer.
Oh,
Thank
good.
God.
Good.
The car wreck they missed, that I have 11 bulging discs and 2 blown discs in my back. So that's been part of the problem why I have trouble walking. So they did CT scans at the hospital, but they're like, oh, your spine and your neck looks fine. Yeah, C6 and 7 is blown to the left, so it's cutting off my right arm. And then L4 and 5, or 3 and 4, one of those is is blown to one side. And I'm like, how the hell do you miss that? What kind of hospital is this? So,
I've had my share of doctors misdiagnosing me and having to figure out my own stuff too. And it's like months on WebMD trying to figure out why I'm getting sick. Why I'm throwing up, and it's like, oh, I have a special case of acid reflux that makes me sick, and it's like now I have to change my whole diet, and that's not fun.
No, it's not, and it was bad. There was days I was 3 hours late to work because I couldn't even walk in the morning. Getting out of bed, and I would try to put weight on my legs, and my back would just I couldn't tolerate the pain, and I'm not somebody that. I get hurt and I just push through it and I go on. But this was just agonizing. Like there was no pushing through it. And so, I went all this time and they're like blaming it on this mass that's on my spine. They were so focused on that they missed everything else. So I did find that out in September. So when I launched the project in November, I was like, yeah, we're going to do this all the way. We're going to blow this out of the water. I didn't have the money to pad the print run. So I was basing my costs on what the minimum print run was because if you order 100 books, it's way more expensive than if you would order 200 books. But I didn't have that extra money, so I was like, all right, this is what it is for the minimum print run. And at that time, I had thought about doing like an art book. And I mentioned it, and people were like, hell yeah, do an art book. That sounds awesome. So I made it more than an art book. You got the preliminaries, you got, the black and white, you got the pencils, you got the inks, you got the colors. You got a bio on each one of the artists. Like, hey, here's Wendy Steen Shaner. She works on Naughty Fairy Stripper Assassins. Here's CB Zane. And here's their piece. He does Into the Suck and Scorpiana. And now part of the Mind Meld project Nebula Pearl, which is live now on Kickstarter. Shout out to them. They have a cross promotion with me. And, I really wanted to advocate for these artists. And doing 2 print runs made for a high goal. And with it being the time that it was, and we were still uncertain, they were pretty sure it wasn't cancer. And I'm like, I just want to get this done. Let's put it all out there and see what happens. And it failed. And, I learned from it. I learned don't try to do 2 book print runs for a book that nobody knows anything about. So I've restructured everything. I added in a cool new tier with a write-in tier, which there's 1 spot left on that. That sold really quick. I was super shocked and it blew me away. And I took the art book out. So the art book I've already done it. So it's not like I'm just going to be like, I'm never doing this. I may, if I am able to do a fall release of book 2, as long as it's before November. If I'm able to do a book release of book 2, maybe for the 1-year anniversary of the release of book 1, I'll bring the art book back and have the art from book 1 and book 2 in it. Because all I got to do is add the new art to it and then add the bios, and it'd be a bigger book. And then there's going to be a fan base that's going to be like, I really want this art book because this book is freaking awesome. So it's been an exciting adventure. And like I said, I've met so many awesome people along the way, people that have been nothing but helpful, and people that I've, supported and advocated for a while. And, they just lifted me up and it was great. I pushed through all the BS and I made it what it is. I made it my bitch, as they said on Brian K. Morris with Clever Title Pending on Tuesday.
That's the best thing to do is have that mindset is this year's going to be my bitch. This is going to, like, anything that you come across that brings you down, you're going to make your bitch.
That's right. So, and I love the story, it's not something I just thought of overnight, to give some backstory to you, my past. I've always wanted to be a writer. Ever since I was in 2nd and 3rd grade, we did these coloring pages and I wrote these super intricate stories. And, when I knew I was going to be on with Brian, I searched through every box in the house to try to find them because I'm super proud of them. Like, even now when I go back and read them, I'm like, holy crap, I can't believe I thought of this. And so I have them packed away in a box somewhere. And I was so upset that I couldn't find them because we've moved stuff around when we had kids. We moved our office here, and then we had another kid, so we had to move it all out of there. And we get a shed and put some of the stuff in totes out in the shed, and it's been minus 17, so I'm like, I'm not looking any longer
No.
for this.
No.
But, you know, I wanted to write. I really did. And my parents are like, oh, you know, my grandparents and, you know, my friends and, oh, you don't want to be a writer. You don't want to do that. You know, you'll never be able to own a house. You need to get a real job. You know, writing's just a hobby.
I hate hearing that. I've heard that so much in my life. It irritates me because there was one time where I'm like, I'm going to be an artist. And my boss mom's like, no, you need to find a real job, get your head out of the clouds, and you need to make a real living. And it's like,
get a real job, you bum.
I lived in the middle of 2 truck stops in the middle of nowhere. And was I really going to make a living being a waitress? No.
No. And so that, you know, that was always in the back of my mind. And like when I was 8, I don't remember what grade I was in. I was in like 4th or 5th grade. I really got into science. And so I wrote this thesis that was like 8 or 9 pages that is in a binder about black holes. You know, like what if they really don't destroy everything that they pull in? What if actually it was like a dimensional portal that somehow pushed you to another place? And that what we see that it looks like it's destroying matter, what if at the center of that vortex, it's actually transporting that matter somewhere else? And so, you know, it was really cool 20 years later to go, I'm going to build on this. I'm going to include this in the story. And some of the backstory where, you know, the idea for Xenonanite Titan came from is I love the game Xenogears for the PlayStation 1. It was like one of my favorite games. You know, Faye was the main character, and he woke up on the planet, had no memories of who he was or what he was there for. And he had the ability to control a gear or a mech, as you would call it. It looks like something out of Pacific Rim or, you know, Transformers. Yeah. And the story was just phenomenal. Like, every game out there, the gameplay gets old over time. So you got to have a great story that supports it. And there's not a lot of games that do that. It's like, it's repetition. It's like, yeah, it's fun to play this game for a while, but the story sucks. Now I'm bored with it. But that game never got boring. It was like 140 hours I put into it. And then, you know, unfortunately, the company ran out of money, and the rest of the game played out in cinematics. They just, you know, made videos for the rest of it because they couldn't develop it, but they wanted to finish the story. And so that's where part of the name comes from, the Xeno part. It's not after aliens or xenomorphs or xenomorphs, some, you know, potato. If you call it Xenonanite Titan, I'm not going to, like, punch you. I promise.
I'll try to control my Canadian accent.
You know what? It doesn't bother me how anybody says it. It's actually fun because, you know, everybody jokes around about how it's the world's hardest title to pronounce. And it's like, you know what? If I have made a name for the title, that's a win right there.
If we can figure out how to say certain actors' names,
oh my gosh,
I think we can figure out how to say the title of your book.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I've always been, you know, fascinated with robotics. I've always been fascinated with, you know, nanites and stuff like that. And so, you know, that was originally what I wanted the story to be about. And, you know, I had thought about this for years and years and years. And then, you know, in 2010, my wife, you know, what do you want for your birthday? And I said, I want a Chromebook. I work overnight. You know, I was a truck driver then. I still am now, but I'm local. Then I worked, you know, one night a week out of town. I would stay out of town, and then I'd work my way back. And so I was like, I'd love to have a Chromebook because it'll give me something to do overnight, you know, when I'm sitting there bored in the hotel, because everybody knows hotel TV sucks. And so you know, that's when I started writing the book. And then when I moved to a different job, I was writing it on the weekends. And it just sucks, you know, everything that happened, and I put it away, and I was so bummed about it because I was like, man, you know, I was finally going to make this book, and, you know, people were excited about it, and then I just kind of dropped off the face of the earth. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I hate to say it, but out of everything that happened last year, I'm happy that it happened because it kicked me in the ass and said, you know, you need to do this, and the time is now. Yeah. And so, you know, when it didn't fund at the end of the year last year, yeah, I was depressed about it because I was already depressed with everything else going on. I was in a bad place off and on last year. Even though I was pushing through, you know, you still get down about stuff. And, you know, but I was like, you know what? It was a bad time. We're going to do this again. We're going to fix what was wrong, and we're going to come back, and we're going to kick ass with it. And we did. It was awesome, the turnout. You know, everybody, we launched it at 8 o'clock from Brian's show. It was like 8:15. And I woke up in the morning to like 15 notifications of congratulations on funding. And I'm like, what? And I'm like, I funded? I'm like half asleep and I look, I'm like, oh my God, I funded. My wife's like, stop jumping on the bed. I'm like, I funded. I'm like, oh my God, the book's coming to life.
That has got to be the greatest feeling, though, is waking up to all those comments and seeing like the money roll in and realizing that the community that you're a part of really is that supportive.
It was humbling. It was absolutely humbling. It is a roller coaster of emotions because this is very important to me. Like this is something that was really big for me, and I want to get the story out there in people's hands. I just want people to read it. I want to talk to them about it. If I could print it for free, I would. If it didn't cost anything, I would just print it and be like, here, have this. But I'm old school. I like print books as much as I love people sending me digital copies to do reviews on my review shows on Saturdays. I don't mind that. But if I like a book, I like having a paper copy. Digital stuff,
yes.
I just don't like digital.
I'm the same way.
Somebody's always the ringleader of your material. Just like on the PlayStation. You buy these online games, like what's the Cyberpunk 2077. PlayStation Store pulled that second day. I don't even think it's still available on the PlayStation Store. They pulled it. And they're like, if you want your money back, you can get your money back. If you don't, then, you can still have it. But, there's a lot of games that came out for the PlayStation 3 or even the PlayStation 3 itself. It was backwards compatible when it came out. And then they released a software update that nixed you being able to have backwards capability. And it also nixed the opportunity to run your own OS on there. So you used to be able to load up Linux and load up a separate program and play, Linux, Windows-based games on there. You could download stuff and play whatever you wanted on it. And then that update, boom, it's all gone. So I'm not a big person on digital stuff. The Ultraviolet, the DVD company, they went under and transferred to whatever they transferred to, and like everything moves around. And so then if you don't transfer your stuff before a certain time, you lose it forever, and then you got to create a new account here, and it's just digital media. I know. So
see, that's just it. Like I've always been like I always buy DVDs. I'll even buy like the VHS if I can find it. I still have my VHS that's still kicking around here.
Same here. There's a lot of movies on VHS that you can't get on DVD or Blu-ray. I mean, they're slowly finally doing a lot of the older movies like Robot Jocks. That was one of my big movies when I was a kid. Robot Jocks was phenomenal. I freaking love that movie. And I found out recently that it was on Blu-ray and I missed it, and you can't even get it anymore. And I thought I had bought it and I didn't.
I love how people are like, well, why don't you just download it, torrent it? I'm like, no, I do not trust it. I do not trust downloading stuff from the internet. First of all, you don't know what you're getting.
You don't know what you're getting, and here's the other thing. So this is funny. I way back in the day when I was in college, everybody ripped software and movies because we were poor college kids and we wanted to see the new stuff when it came out.
I remember when Napster started.
Yeah, when Napster first started out, yeah. And so, it had been like 10 years since I had done any of that stuff. And I had a totally different computer, so I didn't have any files on it that were stuff that were ripped. And somehow I got a cease and desist letter from Paramount for the show, ripping the show Heroes. And I never even have seen Heroes. I'm like, I emailed them. I was like, dear Paramount, I received a letter from you today that I ripped off Paramount's video. Well, guess what? I've never effing heard of this show, nor have I watched it, or do I even know what it's about. So why the F would I download it? And they retracted their thing. So what ended up happening is the internet hub that all the people's houses came off of, somebody on that hub had downloaded it, but it somehow got attached to my IP address. And I'm like, how in the hell does that happen? But, it was really funny. I'm like, I get this letter for ripping off something I've never even heard of. Because I don't watch TV. And it was like a TV show or whatever. And I'm like, I don't even watch TV. Who has time for that? I work. I video game, I read books, and I watch movies. I don't do TV.
Like, here's something funny. When I was in my last foster home, my foster mom, when the internet started becoming a huge thing, my foster mom's like, "No, you're not." She banned me from using the internet at home because she was afraid that I was going to use it to give away personal information. She found one of her husbands on the internet. So
how ironic is that?
Who's the one who gave out personal information?
That's hilarious. You're not allowed to do this. Oh, by the way, I met this guy on there and I'm marrying him.
Right? So that made me laugh, and like basically all I would use the internet for was talking to people who are fans of Resident Evil in the chat rooms.
Resident Evil is awesome.
It was a great game. Like, it still is a great game. They've
redone them. They've redone them in classics on the PS4. Yeah. I haven't played them, but I've seen the graphics, and I'm like, holy crap, these look good.
I have the original game, and then I have the remakes. I was in the middle of playing Resident Evil 2, and I got to the Tyrant. And
yeah.
I'm just like, they changed it. I can't do this right now.
What I always loved was 3 when you played Nemesis. It was like one of the greatest games. And if you had the grenade launcher, you could kill him with one hit with the grenade launcher. But any other part of the game, if you had the grenade launcher in one of the cutscenes and you hit him with it, it did no damage to him whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it's one of the biggest things that always gets brought up in the forums is how funny is it? You can one hit kill him at the end of the game, but any other part of the game, he's invincible. No matter what you shoot him with, you can't kill him. And it's hilarious.
Well, it's funny because here I am playing the first scenario in the remake of Resident Evil 2 and meet up with the Tyrant. I'm just like, this is not supposed to happen. You get so used to with the game being one way.
Yep.
And then of course they throw in the wrench there, and it's like, wow, okay, totally different. Yeah, I should probably get to the comments before people start getting angry at me. But hello, GW, good to see you. Garrett, Ted, good to see you.
Yeah, sorry guys, I don't have it on another screen, so I can't see your comments. I'm bringing it up now.
So Ryan is asking, what is your favorite 80s movie?
Oh yeah, I mean, I would have to say, man, that's a tough one. I really love Willow and Big Trouble in Little China. I mean,
oh yes, those
were like my movies growing up as a kid. Those are the ones that I was raised on. Star Wars, Big Trouble in Little China, Willow. Oh man, there were so many of them, and Conan, Masters of the Universe. All of that stuff that came out in the 80s and the early 90s. That was my forte right there. I was all over that.
The 80s probably had some of the most the best action films. The 90s too, but the 90s kind of went a little bit cheesy with a lot of their action films. But of course, I was a huge fan of Bruce Willis, so Die Hard.
The cheesiness is the best part of it, though, Willow. Some of these action movies, a lot of these action movies nowadays have lost the cheesy factor. It's all about the explosions and the bullets and the guns, and it's over the top, stuff like that, which I don't mind. It is Russ Explode Studios. I love seeing stuff explode, but I miss the cheesiness, and that's what's so great about going. I mean, if you go through my movie collection, it's probably all 80s and 90s and a few early 2000s, and of course I've got all the Marvel movies and Resident Evil and stuff along those lines. John Wick. Constantine. John Wick's awesome.
John Wick is amazing. I saw them in theater, and I'm just like, I fell in love with the visual art of John Wick, the third John Wick too. It was just the visual of everything, and the fight scenes were amazing.
I love it. That's my favorite part. With the pencil. And so, Robot Jocks. I don't know if I think that may still be considered an '80s movie. I don't remember. It may have been released in '90. That was my favorite movie of all time. I mean, I freaking love that. And to answer your second question, Ryan, I may get lynched for this. Although I do like the kaiju movies, I don't really care for Justice League. I've never been a huge DC fan. I do watch it. I've watched the Superman movies and the Batman movies, and I like them. I never get pumped for them. But Mortal Kombat, I am so over the top excited about that. I love the original movies. As cheesy as they were really freaking good. And my man, Sub-Zero, in the freaking trailer with the fatalities, the Red Band trailer that came out this week, like 10 minutes after it got released, I'm like putting it on my big screen TV. I'm on YouTube. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was like a little, oh man, I was giggling. I was like, oh man, I can't wait. And it was awesome seeing the backstory, of Scorpion. And then later on, it actually comes out of his wrist. You know what I mean? And then earlier in the scenes, it shows him just using the rope and throwing the spear. And it was just the rope wrapped around his arm. And then to see the progress through the trailer when they went from being clothed and basic powers to now this guy is like a freaking full-on ninja. And, he's got the spears coming out of his wrist. And I love Mortal Kombat. And that's one of the best parts of the fighting games, the newer ones, is the backstories they gave the characters, about Scorpion and Sub-Zero being foes because, Scorpion's family was killed by, our Sub-Zero's family was killed by Scorpion. And so that's the only reason why Sub-Zero wants in the tournament is to get revenge on Scorpion. So, of course, when the movie showed them facing off, and Sub-Zero getting speared, and then Sub-Zero smashed his fist through him, and then threw up the ice wall, and then threw him through it. Dude, I was like, had goosebumps and chills down my spine. I'm like, yes, the Mortal Kombat we've always wanted. So I don't mean to geek out on it, but totally
by all
Mortal
means,
totally
absolutely geek
Mortal
out.
Kombat, 100% Mortal Kombat. So I think that fully answers your question. Right?
I'm, you know what? Like I like the Godzilla films. I like my science teacher in high school was a huge Godzilla fan, and anytime that we had a test, he would bring the TV in, and then as soon as we were done, we'd watch a Godzilla film, which was great for me because here I am, just like I'm in my element there. And then he would tell us about his magazine that he wrote for and all that, and I'm just like, all the girls are like, "Oh, this is so boring." I'm like, "Shut up."
Yeah, and that's the time that I love is the '80s. When Brian read my book, he's like, this really reminds me of the Robert Heinlein books and Isaac Asimov and, the older style science fiction, pulp fiction, space opera style books. He's like, I absolutely love it. Well, not a lot of people write like that anymore. And I'm like, but that's what I like. I love the cheesy, this takes place in the not so far future from now. It takes place 6 years from now. Well, 5 years from now. It takes place around 2026 to where one of the updates that I made to it is there was a plague that plagued the earth. And that's why, so to give a little backstory to the nanites are being designed as a way to curb the need for medical attention. So there was a plague that ravaged the earth and they were low on resources. People were dying. There really wasn't any cures. People were dying of cancer because everybody had lost their jobs and was poor. So then here we are, 5 years later when I picked the book up, COVID has happened. And so I changed it. I added COVID-19 in there as the virus. And that way it made it a little more realistic. So this takes place 6 years past now. COVID has become a part of it. So instead of it being a plague that has ravaged the earth, I use COVID as a great example because people can understand that. They can empathize with that being a part of the story. So now the nanites were built to curb the COVID-19 virus for people that had cancer, for people that had, needed surgery. These nanites could take care of it. So Raziel is designing these for the SCA. He's designing these nanites. They're never meant to be weaponized. and they're meant for internal use for civilians. All civilians are going to get it. And, of course, they were going to capitalize on it probably over time. But this signal comes in, and he gets called off a leave. He just gets home from working on the space station Hermes outside of Neptune. He gets home, and he's home for a few days, and they call him back. There's a signal they intercept. And so they're like, we need you to come back. And they don't tell him why. So the opening of the book and the prologue is him telling his family goodbye, giving them hugs and kisses, getting in a taxi and going to the space station, or wow, brain fart, the shuttle facility that they take to Hermes. So he gets on a ship, and it kind of introduces some of his co-workers and stuff, and then they blast off for Hermes. So chapter 1 actually starts out there on the space station. He's working on the nanites. They've had a problem with keeping the power source to where they would be safe for human use. And so then all of a sudden they're like, hey, we've got the signal. We think it's alien. We discovered this probe. It transmitted a signal to this planet way here out in the cosmos. We traced it. Based on our technology, we think they could be here in a month. And so now they're pushing, hey, let's take this nanite technology and weaponize it. And not only to where you're superhuman because they can heal you, but now you're going to have an external nanite suit that is super badass. So they give them these new elements to work with. Magnesium is what the suit's created out of. Okay. And that's also what Xenonanite Titan's weapon is made out of. So if you go through the art and you look at the different pieces, you're like, okay, in this piece he has a sword. In this piece he has an axe. Oh, in this piece he has a pike. In this piece, he has a scimitar. His weapon is able to change at his command. So it's made out of nanite. So it's able to reconfigure itself in anything that he can envision in his mind. That way, it creates a perfect soldier because you can change your weapon to your needs instantly. And so that's why you see a variation of his weapon. It's not because, people were just like, well, I want to do it with an axe. It's because literally throughout the story, his weapon evolves into different things due to its needs.
You kind of have like a Green Lantern spin on it. A
little bit, yeah. But it's also made out of magnesium. And the difference is the magnesium sword can be superheated. And it's the only thing that can cut through Raziel's suit.
Okay.
So they only have enough of it. Once the space station is destroyed, the rest of their cargo of the magnesium is destroyed. So his suit is the only one that ends up being created. So like I said, there's this accident that happens that they come under attack. And the story doesn't really explain it. It leaves it open. Is it the aliens? Is it somebody that wants to steal the technology? You don't really know. And, that's where kind of the mystery comes in.
That's awesome. I look forward to reading that. Hi, Teresa. Good to see you.
Hey,
thanks
Teresa,
for stopping
thanks
by.
for joining in. Everyone go get Teresa's poetry expression.
Yes. So what all inspired you to create your character? Like what was there a certain character that really inspired you, or just a combination?
No, I really didn't have a character that inspired it. I just based it off of what I had in my head. Raziel's just a family man.
Okay.
And you see the transition. This book, the origin story is about his transition of being this family man, and then now he's thrown onto a planet. You don't know where he is. He's forced to fight for his life. He's not a soldier. And, he's not only forced to fight for his life, but he's forced to find a way to get off this planet, get people to know where he's at and come rescue him. Or is there even anybody still to rescue him? I mean, there's a lot of what ifs on this stuff. So there really isn't a basis that, the only thing that I really had inspiration for was the name. I love the name Xenogears. I absolutely, was in awe of the name. I don't know why I was so in love with it. And so I was like, what would be really cool for a nanite suit character? And I was like, Xenonanite Titan. I'm like, that just sounds badass. And
that does,
and it flows. And so that's what it always was. And it was really funny when I told my wife I was gonna write a book, because she looked at me like I was high. She's like, okay. Well, I wrote the first 3 chapters, and so this was really funny. I wrote the first 3 chapters, and here's my thing. When I sit down and write, I'll sit here and I'll spin in my chair, and I got my headphones in, and I'm listening to music, and I really got to get into the mood to write. Otherwise, I just sit there and I write a few words, and I was like, yeah, I'm not feeling it. So, I sit around for a little bit, and about a half an hour of groove into some, dubstep. Yes, I write to dubstep. Everybody gives me shit about
it. It's okay.
They're like, how can you listen to that?
I listen to country music, so people can kiss my ass if they don't like my kind of music.
But people are like, I can't concentrate when dubstep's playing. I don't know how you can write with it. And I'm like, it gets me in the zone, because I'm like, oh yeah, explosions and dubstep and techno. I'm like, so finally it'll be, I get home from work. The kids go to bed around 6:37. I get my shower. We watch TV for a little bit. And then I come downstairs. Then I do my little routine where I get into my writing zone. Well, it's like 9:30. So I get flowing. I'm just like tearing it up. I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. This is the rewritten part. And so hey, Wendy. So I realize it's like 11:30 at night. What's dubstep?
Imagine your cat is throwing up in the middle of the night with a good beat behind it.
Get out of here. So it was really funny. It was like 11:30 at night, and I'm like, holy crap, I got to be at work at 3:00 in the morning. I'm like, I'm done writing. So I go and get my shower, and I tell my wife, I was like, hey, here's, read what I've got written so far and see what you think about it. And so I was like kind of laughing, because I wrote the header for chapter 3, and there was nothing wrote underneath of it. And chapter 2 ends off on the part where Raziel is sucked into the anomaly, and you really don't know what has happened, because chapter 3 transitions to his wife and kids. And so you get a chapter of, after everything happened with him, what goes on with them. And so I get out of the shower and I hear, you're not finished. And I was like, what? And she opens up the door. She's like, you're not stopping there. She's like, you have to keep writing. And I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, you're an asshole. I can't believe you left off there. She's like, and then you wrote chapter 3 and left it there. So I was like, I wanted to make sure it was legit and her just not blowing smoke up my butt. So I sent it to Wendy, who's in the audience now. And I was like, hey, Wendy, check this out. And she was like, thanks, Wendy. And she was like, you're so mean. She's like, I can't believe you left off there. Where's the rest of it? And I was like, yes. I was like, that's exactly the reaction that I want. So in the last campaign, I had the teaser of, the prologue in chapter 1 and 2 on there. And I haven't put it on there yet on the second one, because I think pretty much everybody, knew about it or has read about it or has seen me live talking about it or, messaged me about it. But, I mean, if it gets to be, people are like, hey, do you have an excerpt from the book? I'll throw it back up again, which I might just go ahead and do it again tonight. But it was a lot of fun because, that excerpt leaves off exactly where it left off, what my wife read and what Wendy read. But it's really good.
Hey, Derek.
Hey, Derek, how's it going? It's really good. I mean, and yep, same response. Wendy was like, are you kidding me? She's like, where's the rest of it? And so here's the funny thing. So, you have to be in the right mood to write. You can't sit down and write a happy thing and you're in a depressed mood. You can't sit down and write a sad thing when you're having a great day. You can't, or you're having a bad day and you're angry at the world. You have to be in the right mood to write that piece. So there would be nights that I would be on the auctions or on the artist, they'd be drawing on their live shows. And Wendy's like, why aren't you writing? I need the rest of the book now. And I'm like, I'm on vacation.
Now, when you write, do you do you let the story go and see where it goes from there? Or do you have an actual plan of where your story is going?
Well, here's my process. So before the fibro and all this other stuff I had going on, now I have issues sometimes. I get Wednesday night, I had a chat show. We had a great night. but like halfway through the show, I started getting really bad down with my back pain and like the thyroid, the fog started coming in. And so I was like tripping over everything I was saying because I couldn't think clearly. And used to be before this, like I don't write any notes down. I don't do notes. I don't take notes. I just like I have a really good memory. I remember like pretty much everything. So I'll be driving. I drive for a living, so I have plenty of time to reflect on what I want to do with the character. So I played out when I wrote the book. I played it all out in my mind, and I would come to roadblocks. And so I would ride up into that roadblock and I would stop. And then I would, drive around. Or one day I'd be mowing the grass. That's another great time to brainstorm. I had a huge breakthrough mowing the grass one day. I'm just like cruising down the side of the house, got my dubstep playing. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. It just like popped in my head. I wasn't even thinking about it. And I was like, that's great. That's going to change everything. That's going to be so awesome. I got to put that in there. So, it's just little subtle things like that. I don't take notes. I sit down and I just write. And I know that makes a lot of people mad. I don't like talking about it. Because they're like, I hate you. I have to take notes. If I think of something, I have to write it down. Like, I can't do that. I can't just sit and write a story. But I do. I find the post. I want to go from here to here. And this is what I want to end up at. And then I sit down and I just, boom, knock it out.
I kind of do the same thing where, I'll think of something and it's like, oh, I'll keep that in mind. And then I kind of play the scenario out in my head, or I'll have like, I talk to myself. I'm crazy.
Hey, it's
I will
all
actually
good.
have conversations.
Yeah.
Play the characters out where it's like see where the conversation goes. So yeah, that's my process.
Well, and that's the thing, being a driver and sitting at places delivering, because I pump motor oil into tanks. I used to haul explosives, and then when in 08 we bought this house. Like literally 2 weeks after we bought the house was when the crash happened in 08 in the U.S. And so the market just like plummeted, and all of the quarries, all of the places that we delivered explosives to and we blasted at went under. And so that was when I transitioned to the driving jobs, because driving jobs were like a dime a dozen. You could make good bank on it. And I ended up getting on with Brinks Armored Security. So for a while, I was an armed courier for Brinks. I worked there from 08 to 2012. So it was no, it wasn't that long. It was 2010-ish, because it was when I got on the other job, but I worked overnights, that I got the Chromebook. So, driving has always kind of been what I've been doing just because it's good money. Well, then, several years ago, that dropped off. The DOT took half of the driving force off of the road. And so now, like, drivers are hard to get. And driving jobs they're like, the jobs are a dime a dozen, not the drivers. So they're like, oh, please, come work for us. So I ended up landing in a pretty good spot with this. But always being a driver, being a courier for Brinks was one of the really good places that I was able to sit and watch people, because that was my job. I'm guarding this guy's life. I need to look at body language. I need to watch how people are moving. Does this person look suspicious? This person isn't here to go shopping at Schnucks right across the street. That he's got something else in mind because we're changing money out at an ATM. That was my job, to watch people for several years.
Yeah.
And so I learned, body language and movement and conversations between people. And that was always my fun thing too, hanging out with friends. We would be sitting outside and there'd be people walking down the street talking to each other. I would make up like conversations between them and like do South Park voices. It's great. Like I would do South Park voices or something crazy, and they would be like bantering back and forth. And my friends would just be cracking up because they're like, where do you come up with this stuff? And I'm like, deep down inside, there's a writer in here just waiting to break out.
Yeah.
And it is great. I'm so glad to finally be releasing this book. What's the most exciting thing is this, Willow. My whole life I've had this nagging feeling. I've always had something, I felt something eating away at me every job I've had. I love blowing up stuff, but I always had this nagging feeling. I'm not doing what I want to do. I hate doing this. I hate this job. I hate having set hours. I hate doing this. And then I wrote the book last year. I rewrote it again. And I was like, this is what's been missing all these years. I stopped writing. This is what I was meant to do and what I love to do. And so, now that I've got all this stuff going on, it's a good thing that I can, get into writing these books, because hopefully eventually, I can get this awesome story out there and finish it and work on the comic book series that I end up transferring this into. So this is like the Punisher origin story, where his family gets killed and all the stuff that happens that makes the Punisher who he is. That's what The Fall Before the Rise and the other two books in the trilogy are. They're, why was the suit created? How was it created? What was it created for? Why did he end up with it? What is it capable of doing? And most of all, what happens to Raziel that turns him into from the family man to the man that he is now? And I never originally meant for it to turn into a comic book. It's just I've been working in the comic book industry with advocating for people and pushing their work and helping artists get online and do live drawings and pushing them to put their work out online instead of doing just cons. And throughout the years, people will be like, why haven't you released your book? And I'm like, I don't know. I got all this other stuff that's going on. I don't have time for it. I'm the only one working, and so over the years, I started seeing, this story doesn't really end. This is just like his origin story. I could turn this into a comic book series, do like a 9 or a 10, book series on a comic book, and do a couple of side arcs of some of the other characters in the book that kind of, falter off, and you're like, what happened to this person? It may be explained later on in, a comic book arc, but I won't revisit the prose. The prose, once it's done, it's done. I'll re-release it when book 2 comes out. I'll have book 1 on that for the people, to get caught up on. But outside of that, I will not redo the prose into a comic book. It'll be something fresh and new. So, it's really exciting, because I'm like, man, it's going to be awesome turning into a comic book. And so, yes, that's one of the other things that I wanted to bring up too is, I do have plans to go further once this series is done. And as far as people waiting for the books, book 2 is already being in process of being written. So,
good.
Once that's done writing and I start getting art commissioned for it, some pieces with, that's one of the cool things. So to backtrack a little bit, book 1, the art pieces do have Easter eggs in them. You're going to look at them, you're going to be like, why is his leg messed up in David Fogg's piece? Or Finney the Great's piece. You're going to look at it and you're going to go, oh, well, there's this ship with a shadowy figure in it. Who's in the ship? Oh, there's all these laser blasts. Are they shooting at the soldiers that are chasing Raziel? Or are they shooting at Raziel? So each one of the pieces, it was really fun working with the artist, because I'm like, I want this in there. I want it to be subtle. I want this and this. And it's all Easter eggs. You're going to look at the art and you're like, the art's awesome. There's really weird stuff going on in here. And then you're going to read the book and you're going to be like, holy crap, that's insane. And then now I understand why this piece is like that. So book 2, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm like, I had a lot of fun working with the artist. The best part is I gave them all the freedom of, I didn't say, hey, I want my character to be drawn like this, and it has to be like this. I said, look, here's the base art for my character. This is the color scheme. The color scheme needs to stay the same. Outside of that, do what you want with it. I want it to be your style. Here's your part of the book. Read this. Turn my words into art. And not all of them I did that with. Like I got Wendy, she read a little bit of it, so she had a good idea of it. But like with Eve's piece, with Wyvernite, I'm like, here's the piece where these two interact. This is what I want. Do it how you see fit, but it needs to be this color scheme. Because if that's another thing that's really cool about Xenonanite Titan is, you look at him and you see his nanite suit, and it's the red and the oranges in the body plating, and Wyvernite's purple instead of red, and there's a reason for that. But you don't find out until that section of the book, and I'm not going to give it away. But there's a reason why they're different colors, and it's the same nanite technology, but there's a reason for it. So everything in the art has a story behind it, and it's not just you're looking at a piece. It has little Easter eggs that later on you're going to be like, that's freaking awesome. So I really intend to do that with the second book. I'm going to probably keep Wendy and a few of the other artists, but I want to bring on a whole new crew of artists that I can throw out there and say, check out these people's work. They do great work.
Yeah.
And I want to advocate for them by putting their work out in the world and, testing them. And the artists had a lot of fun. They were like, what do you think about this? And I'm like, I freaking love that. They're like, oh, good. I didn't think you were going to like it because it's totally different. And I was like, that's what I wanted. That's the best part about reading books and why I love reading novels and science fiction books and stuff like that. Because, like my book's a science fiction book, kind of, but it spans so many different genres. It's got drama, romance, sci-fi. It's a human story. It's a Philip Russert said it the best way. It's a human story, a story you can connect with. But that's why I love reading novels, is because you got to think for yourself. You're playing.
Yeah.
I play a movie in my head. I don't know about anybody else.
Same.
But
yeah.
I'm reading. I'm like, it's going on. Like when I read Doom, I've played the game. I've got Doom, Knee Deep in the Dead is one of the books that I have, and it's a freaking awesome a novel. If nobody's ever read it, get Doom, Knee Deep in the Dead. It is awesome. It is like you are playing a video game and watching a movie, and you're reading it in a book. And so I always have these movies playing in my head, and so that's what I love reading. And that's what's so cool about each piece that the artist did, is because you're seeing what they seen in my words. And it was really humbling too, because it was like, okay, I wrote the words that inspired this. I'm doing my job. And it felt really good to know that. It wasn't like I was just writing this book and, people are going to be like, what is he talking about? I wrote this, I sent it to them. They made this out of it. I'm doing my job. And so I loved it. And people may go through the book and they get to an illustration and they go, this really resembles how I see Xenonanite Titan. Or, I don't imagine them anyway like any of these. But it gives you kind of a different takes on the character. And I love that. I absolutely love it. I think it's phenomenal.
Oh man, I like to enthrall myself in these kind of characters where I envision their world, I envision the action, everything. Like I will even put myself in as one of the characters fighting alongside them, and like I obsess over over these kind of characters, and I look forward to doing this with your book.
Yeah, and he's a fun character, and it's not just him; it's his wife, and it's Natalie and Robert, his kids. I made them the same age as my kids, which I mean they were pretty much when I wrote the book initially, but now that I have kids, I made them the same age just because at this age, this is how they talk, and I can transpose that into the book to where it's like, this is how this age of kid, talks. This is the wordage that they use, the verbiage that they use. And so, that was a lot of fun. And, there's twice in the book that it goes to them. And well, no, actually there's 3 times that the book actually switches over to them. So it doesn't jump all over the place. It's just like you get to a stopping point and then it goes for them, you move on. And then the next chapter comes back to where Raziel is, and it shows what goes on for him. So it definitely is fast paced. It doesn't, dwell on anything. Wendy will attest to that, and that's one of the things she loved about it. It's fast paced. There's a lot of action, and you'll have questions throughout the book. And like my editor, she was like, "Oh, I need to know the answer to this," and then like 2 pages later. Okay. She would go back and erase it. So she left some of those in there just because she's like, I didn't want you to feel like you were always 2 steps ahead of me. She's like, I would write something and then later on you'd answer and I'd be like, dang it. And I'd have to go back and delete it. So we had a good laugh about it. But, it explains everything you need to know. And it explains everything it doesn't explain everything that I don't want you to know at this point. So there's going to be some questions that you're going to be like, okay, I need some more information on this, but it'll all be played out in due time.
Excellent.
There's a rhyme and a reason to it.
So if by chance someone comes up to you and says that they'd be interested in doing like a cartoon or a video game of your character, like, would you allow that, or like would you want to have full full control over that.
So here's what I tell everybody. I'm not going to sell out on the book. The only time that I would say, okay, Netflix, you can do a TV show on this, or Bethesda, you can make a game on this, or whoever would want to pick up on it, would be once the series is finished and I'm done with it. Once the origin story's closed and I do, my comic book arcs on the characters, after that, if I don't plan on going back to it, basically is what I'm saying. If I have no plans of going back and redoing or adding another story arc on for the fans, because I'm gonna listen. If you want to, I have a character that you fall in love with, and you're like, what happened behind the scenes, because this character never comes back into fruition throughout the book. I'll go back and I'll be like, all right, I'll either tell you, or if I can write another story arc on it and it be good, then I might turn it into a series, because there may be more people that want to know that. And no, I won't. I'll retain full control of this. I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it because I'm invested in this character. I believe in the story, and it's going to be the way I want to be. That's why I'm self-publishing it.
Okay.
Everybody's like, I've had a lot of blowback. Why are you doing a Kickstarter for your book? Why don't you go get an agent and go through a publisher? And it's because they can say, oh, I don't like this part of the book. You need to change it. They want to make what's hip right now, because the book's going to sell. People are going to might read it and they may not like it. And I'm okay with that. If they come up to me at a con and say, hey, I read your book, I really hated it, I'm going to ask you why. What can I do to make it better? What didn't you like about it? Was it something that I did, or you just don't like what happened in the story? And those are conversations that I'm willing to have. I'll take constructive criticism. I have no problem with it at all, because it helps me grow as an author. I don't want to ever say, oh, I'm the best that I can be. I never want to get to that point. And, and it's like I said, I don't want an agent. I don't want a publisher, because I don't want somebody saying, oh, you need to do it like this, or, you can't use this artist, or, the fans say, hey, we want an art book. Well, then I got to call the publisher up or the agent up and say, hey, all my fans want a collected art book of book 1 and 2. Can I do that? No, people are going to be like, I want an art book. And I'm going to be like, okay, I'm going to provide you an art book. I don't have to worry about that stuff. And
yeah,
that's why I'm self-publishing it.
That's cool. I like that. I like this comment from Wendy. Get back to writing. I promise I'll let him get back to writing as soon as I'm done hearing more
Wendy,
about it.
I'm legitimately on vacation right now. Sorry.
Speaking of vacation, like, do you stop writing purposely while you're on vacation, or do you just always working?
I'm on vacation from my job right now, just because I launched Tuesday, and I wanted to have the ability to do some shows and get on and talk about it, answer people's questions and be able to push the project. And with my issues and stuff that I got going on, it's really hard for me to do shows after work. I have nights like Wednesday night, where I'm so down and out. I just like stammer and stutter, and it's not my fault. I can't help it. And so, and I feel like I make an ass of myself, because people are like, oh, this guy doesn't even know about his own stuff, and it's not all the time. It just happens off and on. But I didn't want to overdo it. I didn't want to work all day and then come home and rush to try to make the shows. I wanted to make sure, oh yeah, you want to do a show with me? Yeah, I can get on. And then I took advantage of it, and, yesterday afternoon I had Rich Parada on with the Incantessi, because he's trying to push his book out there and get some eyes on it. And I was like, hey man, I'll do a special show at noon. I'm off. I have no problem having you on.
Yeah.
And then last night I was on with Antonio D with AD Studios, with his Changeling Horror Show page, and I hung out with them and we just BS for a while. And then today I had Martha Schwartz on with Seed Seekers. She's got probably 36, 35 hours left on her project, and she's right at funded.
Okay.
So I wanted to help, give her a little bit of a push there at the end to try, here's the thing, people are like, oh, you're funded, you did it. And it's like, yeah, but, I want to get these stretch goals out. I want to get this cool stuff out to people. And not only that, the more money that we make on the book, we can put into making the book better. Because to be honest, you don't really make anything off of Kickstarters. What little bit if I do make anything off of the Kickstarter, I'll put in the book too. I'm going to use it for the art. I'm going to use it for, getting maybe a high-end artist. I really want to get Dan Fraga to do a sketch cover for me. His freaking, inked covers are just phenomenal. Just like Armando's piece, that's on this one. That's the black and white. It is phenomenal to see all the detail that's in there. So, it's not going to be like, oh, I made, $1,000 off of this and I'm going to go buy me a PlayStation 5. No, whatever I make off of this is going into book 2 to make it bigger, better, get some awesome art for it. The best thing I can get out there from a lot of these indie artists. And I'm always going to push to improve it and make it better.
And you know what? I like the idea of crowdfunding a project. One time I was trying to get a calendar out. I oversaw a calendar with a couple of my costuming friends, and I tried doing like a GoFundMe page, trying to get funding for the calendar. And unfortunately, when it comes to local the local crowd, it's really hard to convince people. It's like, no, come on, you can get a calendar, you'll see people in costume, blah blah blah, and you do the whole shtick. But trying to convince people why they should. I didn't have the crowd funding people that you do right now, and the great thing about this community is we all work together trying to make sure that everybody becomes successful.
Yeah, and that's just like, you had asked me if Grant could be on, with me tonight. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I don't have any problem being on with any creators. I'm not in competition with anybody. We all work together. We all, try to make each other successful. That's like yesterday. I asked Grant. I was like, hey, I've already been on 2 shows today, but I don't mind. You want me to make a live show and let's get people excited about this project Beowulf and get it out there. And, shout out to Grant Lankard. If you guys haven't seen it, check out Beowulf #1, live now on Kickstarter. If you need help finding it, go to Xenonanite Titan. And if you scroll down, there's 3 projects on there that I'm currently cross-promoting with. #1 is Nebula Pearl, the Mind Meld project with author Kara Nicole, Alfred Trujillo, C.B. Zane, Michael Shoemaker, and Miss Wendy Steen Shaner. It is a mind meld project because Alfred and Kara started writing the first 4 pages. Wendy picked it up. Michael Shoemaker picked it up. And then C.B. Zane finished out the book. So you're going to get 4 pages written from each creator. It's got an awesome story to it. It's being funded through Codex Entertainment LLC with Luis Torres. And our cross promo for that is if you back his project and you back my project, you get a die cut sticker of the girl from Nebula Pearl and Xenonanite Titan. Cross promo #2 is Into the Suck with C.B. Zane. Phenomenal series. You guys want to check it out? 2 Saturdays ago, I did a live reading of the digital of issue 1. So you will get to see it on screen. I'll read it to you. I'll do the best voiceovers that I can do and change my voice to a female voice. And I did it. So definitely go check that out. The cross promo for CB Zane's Into the Suck is if you back his project and you back my project, you get this card with Squee from Into the Suck riding Wyvernite, my dragon, from Xenonanite Titan. But it gets better than that. Not only do you get Ruben Rosas art on one side, you flip it over and you've got Steph Wilson's art with the heavy metal homage of Squee riding Wyvernite. So if you back Into the Suck and you back my project, you will be getting this super sweet double-sided metal art card. Steph Wilson, Ruben Rosas. Yeah, this Tarna heavy metal homage is just phenomenal. Steph's like, what do you think about doing like a heavy metal? I'm like, I love it, do it. And so he sent me this. I was like, yeah.
Yes. And dragons. We can.
And dragons. Yeah. And then the third cross promo is with Grant Lankard. He launched today. We just put the promo up on there. You get a window cling to put on your car, your house, wherever you want to put it. I'm going to freaking be sporting them on my car because they're super sweet looking. It'll be my dragon, Wyvernite, circling with his dragon from Beowulf. And if you want to see what that image looks like, again, just go to the Xenonanite Titan Kickstarter. There is each promo that's going on listed at the bottom. All three of them have the links. You can click on the picture. You can click on the actual name of the book where it says Nebula Pearl. It is a hyperlink. It will take you to their pages, and you can check out their projects. So definitely, guys, don't just check out my project. Check out their projects and show them some love. And last but not least, I will show this off. This is my Explode member card. So this is Steph Pool. And if you guys don't know who Steph Pool is here. I got one that's not so glittery too. We'll show them both. I'm probably going to do the glitter card because in person it looks awesome. So this is the glitter card, and then this is the not glitter card. Here, let me take it out of the wrapper. It'll probably show up better. There we go.
Oh, that is awesome.
So, Steph Wilson, we've been friends for a while. We've been chatting back and forth, and he started doing the Thursday night You Can Draw. And the first night that he did it, he did Deadpool. And so I changed mine. I added the circle eyes to mine instead of the diamond-shaped eyes.
Yeah.
And because he does the circle templates, and everybody gives him trouble about it. And I was like, I'm going to call this Steph Pool. So each week when he draws something, I add Steph Pool into it when we do the You Can Draw segment. So I did a special one for Antonio D, which I'm coloring right now for him. It says, Steph Pool, do you want to take me on a date? And then Steph Pool says, what's your favorite restaurant? PF Changeling. So I thought it was pretty funny. You know, it's crappy art, but it's witty humor. So that's all that matters. And then there's a really funny one. Hold on, let me find this one. So here's the one when Jesse Witchman bought his Samsung TV. And Samsung sent him a defective TV. So he got a hold of him. He's like, I need a new TV. Well, they double charged him. And it was just a whole huge mess. So he was mad at Samsung. So
I love it.
And so here's Steph Pool. He says, get yourselves a Sony and upgrade to Blu-ray. And then there's a Samsung DVD player with holes shot in it. So, this was his Thursday night You Can Draw. And then, of course, like I said, I add I add Steph Pool in and add my own witty humor. So everybody looks forward to those every week. It's a lot of fun. I bring in Jesse Witchman. I bring in CB Zane. So that was another fun one I did. We drew Mighty Might. Let's see, that's Wile E. Coyote. Where is it? I know you're in here somewhere, Mighty Might. Oh, here it is. Nope, that's not it. Yep, here it is. So I did Might. So Might's his character that he just brought in for the Comic Unity Online Con. And she said, oh, Steph Pool, will you increase my circle template? And Steph Pool says, I don't want none unless you got space buns, hon. So... it's a blast. So that was one of the cool things, that I did with the first campaign. And I offered it again on this campaign. All day one backers got a Steph Pool commission of Steph Pool and whatever character they want. It's going to be crappy drawing, but I'm going to come up with something really funny and really witty. And I'm going to do that for everybody. I think there's 49 people that got in on it. So there's going to be a lot of commissions for me to do. But I want to do it. I really want to do it. I really want people to get something that's personal.
Yeah. Oh, that is awesome. I'm excited for all this. Like, you know what? This whole year of doing these shows and meeting you guys has given me a whole new appreciation for the comic book world and writers, and you guys make me geek out every time I meet someone new, and I become a huge fan of your guys' work, and I'm so glad to have you on the show and to show off your work.
I really do. I appreciate that. I love having fun. I mean, everybody sees Steph. I banter. Like I made the Valentine's Day cards with him. I'm sure you've seen those. I give Steph a hard time, but Steph always gives me a hard time on his live show, and throughout the week he posts stuff with me in it. And people are like, man, these guys really hate each other. We don't. And that's what's so funny about, this metal art card, because Steph didn't know that I commissioned Ruben to do the other side. And people think they're like mortal enemies because Ruben and Steph are always going round and round. And so I was like, this is going to be hilarious. I'm going to have Steph on one side, or there we go, Steph on one side, and then Ruben on the other. And so it was great when I unveiled the card Ruben made. If you haven't seen the post, look up Ruben Rosas or look on my page and look at the comment that he tagged me in. It was hilarious. He's like, I guess Russell didn't know that we're mortal enemies. He's like, but I'll look past it just this once. And it was just like this whole huge, it's something about Steph, me, and peanut butter and jealous. And it was hilarious. Steph's all like, but yeah, I mean, so if you ever see me posting, Steph Pool and making fun of Steph or CB, or I bring Jesse Witchman in, I did the one with the Jack Links. So we did the, Bigfoot. That was what I was trying to think of. We did the Bigfoot one. And so I added in Steph Pool, and then I photoshopped, I took Jack Links and I put Steph's face on it. And I photoshopped the name to Steph's Links. And that was what was so funny about the Steph Pool cartoon that I drew, because Steph Pool was like, hey, do you want some Steph Links? And he had the bag and it was drawn on there. And so we're constantly always just jazzing on each other. And it's because we're good friends and we love to have fun. And, it stirs up buzz online. People like look at it and they just laugh. And so when Valentine's Day rolled around, it was 2 weeks ago, and we were on Antonio D's show, and I told Marseille, I said, Marseille Phillips, she does cosplay. She did some cosplay for Wendy stuff, and I think you know who she is.
Yes.
Okay, so we always have this thing where Marseille will message me, and she'll go, what Steph Pool cosplay are we going to do today? And so we were on the Antonio D show, and I was like, hey, you know what? We haven't done a Steph cosplay in a while. She's like, what do you want to do? I'll message you later. So I was like, hey, we should do one of him as Catwoman. And so I played him Catwoman, and then Luis Torres was the Riddler, which is funny. It turns out I didn't know this, but the Riddler is Luis's favorite character. And I tagged him in it on his birthday. And he's like, how did you know that the Riddler was my favorite character? I was like, dude, I didn't. Like, it's just coincidence. And so then I was like, hey, do one is like a crazy lady with the phone. And I was like, do another one that is, something crazy. She's like, well, I got fox ears. She's like, oh, and I got this beehive wig thing. I'm like, do it. Just do it. I like, however absurd it is.
Okay, that's what okay, that explains the whole crazy beehive crazy.
Yeah, so she cosplayed it, and I Photoshop her out of them, and then I put Steph's face in it. And we've done several of them. So all of the album covers for the Jersey Circler, that's Marseille, her sitting in her car. I took her face out of it and put Steph's face in there. And then there was the other one. I did him as Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Oh, and then Rambo. That was the other one. Marseille did cosplay for Rambo. But the way we got to talking about it is, as Antonio was talking about Terminator and the big leather jacket. And Marseille's like, I got a leather jacket. I was like, yes, we're going to do the Stephanator. And she was really upset. Somebody did something with her jacket. It's like gone. So that's how we ended up doing the beehive and the fox ears. And so I put them out in the woods. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. I think Marseille quit breathing for about 10 minutes when I sent her those. She's like, I love it. She's like, you got to post those. The crazy tangents.
That's what I like about this community is like you guys all do all these crazy fun stuff. Carl has been Whitman has been posting my picture up on his page, left, right, and center. Between me and Nick Talker, we've become like the unofficial mascots of the Uncle Carl page.
Yeah, Nick's the cryptid. And then for a while, it was the giant cheerleader with the bees when it first started out. And then it went over to you. And the one of you reminded me of Becky's Carpet Outlet that used to be here in St. Louis. Oh my gosh, I was cracking up laughing. I was like, oh, I forgot all about Becky's Carpet Outlet. I'm like, that's hilarious.
The most recent one, he took my face, and well, they're in the middle of doing the green room thing right now, but picture of me with my victory rolls that I did up a couple of years ago trying to do the pinup thing, and I have wide eyes because like that the eyelashes I was wearing made my eyes look really big, so I'm just like overemphasizing my eyes. So I'm glad that picture's getting its rounds.
and it is. It's a lot of fun. That's like when Brian posted that one picture of him like this, and I put in that what did I put on there? Oh, X-Lax for when you're stopped up, and I posted that on there. I thought Brian was gonna die laughing, and I was like, I don't know how Brian's gonna take this, like, because like we were pretty decent friends at the time, but we really hadn't ever like talked. And that's just me. I love to have fun. Like I'm serious about stuff. I'm serious about the projects, but I love to have fun, and that's what my show revolves around. You know, when I do Russ Explode Studios and I have creators on, we talk about their inspirations, what inspired them to do the book, and you know, we get off on tangents, and the comments get crazy and go off the rails, and I just join in on it because it's so much fun. And before the end of the show, we're all laughing and just, you know. And then later on, like when we had the Nebula Pearl panel on, Michael Shoemaker was joking about how somebody should screenshot because Luis Torres froze up like this. And he's like, somebody should put the Mike Tyson tattoo on him. So immediately after the show was over, I went back to my show and I screenshotted it and I added the tattoo in and I posted it up on there. So, I mean, that's what's fun, you know, jazzing on each other, and having a good time. It keeps the creativity flowing.
Yeah.
It really does. This is like, what am I going to think of to get him back for this?
See, and the funny thing is, Grant even touched on it today, and in Brian's show, where it's like, you know, this year we took a look at ourselves and realized what we really want to do with our lives, and like, do I want to spend the rest of my life working retail? No, not really. I want to be around creative people, positive, creative people. And that's now doing the show. Like I've hummed and hawed for so many years trying to figure out what kind of show I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do a talk show, but it's like, for some reason I always got scared. It's like, no, because I'm afraid to become a fangirl and be the nerdy fangirl, and then I realized,
what's wrong with that?
Other geeks, other geeks to geek out with.
and exactly. You know, we geeked out about stuff tonight, and that's what's fun about these shows is, you know, you get to the bottom. So here's the thing. This is why the shows are so good. I mean, anybody can go look at the Kickstarter and you can get a gist for, you know, what the project looks like and stuff like that, but you don't really get to meet the creators. You don't really get to know what kind of things the creator's into. You know, like, you know, the question that was asked earlier about, you know, what you know, movie from the 80s was your favorite? Which of these movies would be your favorite? You know, you get to know more about the creator through the things they like, and then there's things that you guys can have in common, and then you grow that relationship. You know, I've had people send me friend requests after being on live shows, and they talk to me like, hey, you know, you talked about this, you know, I really love that game. You know, like when I mentioned Xenogears, I had people message me and be like, man, I love that game. I had that game, and this one was my favorite too. And we started talking about video games, messaging online afterwards, still geeking out after the show.
Yeah.
And so you don't get that because, you know, even if you go to cons, I mean, here's the thing. You go to a con, the con floor is full. You got people that you're like, I absolutely need to meet this person. I absolutely need to meet this person. And you're walking all over the place because the maps are always wrong because they're like, oh, Jesse Witchman's here. Well, no, he's not. He's way over here because they moved him because this person canceled. And then now this person's there. And, you know, so you spend all day trying to find the people you absolutely want to meet. And sometimes you come across the people like me that'll be standing there and you're like, oh, hey, I didn't know you were here. But the possibility that's low because you spend most of the time looking for the people you really want to go to meet. And I hope to be one of those people eventually that people are like, hey, I want to, you know, meet you in person. And so, you know, doing it online, it's great. People can ask whatever question they want. They don't have to wait in line. They're like the 15th person in line. There's 30 people behind them. You're only going to get like 2 minutes with the creator. They're like, hey, how you doing? You know, oh, I really like your work. Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. What do you want me to sign? Okay, here you go. All right, next. You know, you don't get that one-on-one. So that's why I love trying to push artists to do the live shows so that people can get a chance to ask those questions. They don't have to wait in line and hope that there's nobody else in line to be able to talk to you, because they want to get to know you. You know, people will want to be invested in you before they invest in your project. And that's why I try to get people to go live with me. I'm like, hey, you know, have you thought about going live with the project? No, not really. I'm like, why not? You know, people want to know who you are. And, you know, you can put a little short, funny video on your Kickstarter, but it doesn't really say much about you as a person. And I want to know that. And so, you know, it's really funny. People are always like, you know, you don't do any research on the people that are going to be on your show. I was like, well, I make sure they're like a good person before I have them on.
See, that's just it. Like, I very seldom, like, I'll write down a few questions here and there, but quite often it's just like, I'll let you talk, and if I have a question, I'll ask it.
Well, and that's the thing, you know, there's a lot of people that go back and watch the replays because, you know, to be honest, there's hundreds of shows going on. Everybody's doing it because everybody's trying to get out there because the cons are canceled. So I want to make sure that when people that aren't there, I ask the questions that they're going to want to ask. And if I do all the research in the world on you and everything you've ever done, I'm not going to ask those questions because I already know the answer to it. And people are like, well, I guess that makes sense. And it's like, yeah, I want to go into the show not knowing anything about you because I'm going to ask all the questions all these other people are going to ask in case they miss the show. That way they can get a chance to know you, know the information they want to know about you. You know, what movies you watched as a kid, what comic book inspired you growing up. For me personally, it was Vampirella. I really got interested in comic books with X-Men and Boof and Indiana Jones. Those were some of the first comic books that I got as a kid. And I didn't really get a whole lot of comic books. And it was probably mid-90s, one of our antique shops up the road was going out of business. And they always had this little comic book section that I would go and buy a few comic books out of. Like the new Teen Titans. They had like the whole series of that. I picked that up. And so they were going out of business, and all these comic books were marked way, way down. So that was the first time I ever got a Vampirella book.
Oh.
And it was the Adam Hughes #1 under the Harris title.
Okay.
And I got that #1, and I was like, oh my gosh, I freaking love that. Of course, it was, you know, I was a teenage boy, and it was a hot vampire with massive cleavage. So I was going to be like, ooh. But I love the story. You know, Vampirella is really cool. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to go off on a tangent.
No,
you can tell me to shut up.
No.
Vampirella is really cool. If people don't know about Vampirella, here's the thing. Everybody thinks she's a vampire. She's not a vampire. She is an alien from another planet. And so when she arrives on Earth, her and Dracula become mortal enemies because Vampirella is an alien. She is immune to sunlight. She's immune to silver. She's immune to being staked. She can shapeshift, and she utilizes different weapons. There's several series where she uses guns. There's series where she uses blades. And there's other series where she goes into like full-on monster form and just shreds people with her claws. So Vampirella has just always been a fascination to me because the more I delved into the stories, it was just like, you know, this is really awesome. She can bite people and suck their blood. They don't become vampires because she's an alien, not a vampire. And that's why she hates vampires so much and why she hates Dracula. And Dracula hates her because he feels like she's infringing on his territory. So it's a really cool story. So that has become my main collection over the years. I now have Vampirella 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then I have a bunch later on in the series. So that's going to be my main collection goal that I go for. The other books that really inspire me is I love The Punisher. I brought that up earlier, you know, with the origin story of Raziel. You know, you can't read The Punisher without knowing his family was killed and he was left for dead, but he survived. And he said, now that I got a second chance, these people are going to pay, and I'm going to go after anybody that has anything to do with them. You can't read that story and be like, I'm fully invested in the Punisher. Granted, the newer Punishers, yes, everybody's going to say, oh, the Punisher sucks now. It does. It really lost its story. They've redone it. There was a few series in between that were really good. But, you know, the old Punisher was awesome, the original series. And so I do have those. I have 1 through 5, and the original limited to 4, but there is a 5th issue, which is hilarious. 1, 2, and 4 says limited to 5, and then there's the 5th issue.
Now, do you have the Punisher where he teamed up with Archie?
Yes. I absolutely do. That one I have in Raw. The other ones I do have those graded. I got like number 1. It's signed by Stan Lee, Stephen Grant, Michael Zack, Jim Beatty, and who is the other person? It's signed. It's got 6 signatures on it. I can't think of what the other one is.
Okay.
I'm having brain fart. But yeah, that's like my Grail book right there. That Punisher number 1, because that's like one of the only Stan Lee books I have. I have 2 other ones, but I'm glad that I got one. Now, I didn't have it signed personally, unfortunately. I just happened, to come across the book in a 9.6, and it was like I got it for like $200, like
wow.
a few years ago, and now the book's selling for like $1,500. I'm like, thank God I got it when I did. And you won't hear me be like, oh yeah, now I can turn around and say, no, that book's staying with me. That's like if I have an emergency and like Roger goes in for a heart surgery and we need to pay the house payment, yes, it'll go. But outside of that, yeah, that's my baby. And then my Vampirellas are my baby. I got the number 1. It's signed by Neil Adams. It is such a beautiful Frazetta cover. And that's one of the nice things. A lot of the early issues of Vampirella have the Frazetta covers on them, and they're just absolutely astounding. I mean, Frazetta's work is amazing. And even later on in the war, after the Warren series and Harris took over, and then of course Dynamite took over, there's been some Frazetta homages that have popped up, or they've reused some of the older art, and they're beautiful. Like, his work was amazing.
Yeah, I collected all different kinds of comics growing up. I started with, it was funny. The first comic I ever got that probably started me off with collecting comics was Sheena. My mom went to a garage sale, picked up a bunch of stuff, and I remember her coming home and she like threw me this comic book. I'm like, what the hell is this? Yeah. And I was like 6 years old, and I'm like, oh, I like this. I like the art. I liked everything about it. And I do not have a normal. I did not have a normal childhood, and I do not have a normal life.
Who has a normal childhood? What is? Explain a normal childhood for me, because I don't know what it is either.
I grew up as a kid, I would wear my mom's costumes and sexy outfits and all that, not really piecing it together later on that she was a stripper and so of course it's like I'd watch her get ready for work, and she'd tease her hair, makeup up to here. I loved Elvira.
Oh yeah.
So I grew up with all that. Oh yeah. So of course I'm going to get influenced by that, by all the sexy women and, strong-willed and all that. And so and I loved makeup. I loved costumes. And then, having that influence in my life. And of course, I'm getting told from my foster parents that, oh no, this isn't right. This, and it's like, what's wrong with this? It's like, there's nothing there. Being sexy is not evil.
It's not. Well, and that's like what you posted the other day, people giving you trouble about cosplaying. You know what? I say kudos to you. My wife is like, oh, I'm never going to cosplay because I'm overweight and I think I look terrible. And it's like, you know what? There's no reason to feel like that. There's a lot of models out there that are overweight, and there's nothing wrong with showing off your body. I don't, if it's not your thing, move on. Don't say anything. But it irks me for people that body shame because there's no reason for it. Somebody out there is going to think it's beautiful. Somebody out there is going to love it. And it shows how empowered you are and how, what's the word I'm looking for? So how much self-esteem you have for yourself. And kudos to you for doing the cosplay and not giving an F whatever other people think. Because, you know what? If you're happy with it, that's all that matters.
At the end of the day, I'm wearing a t-shirt and my boobs are still there.
Yeah,
they're not going to disappear.
No, they're not going to disappear. And it just baffled me that you said that people were dogging you for cleavage, like for real.
You know what? I had a couple of my friends have had their pictures off of Instagram deleted because of nudity, and it's like one of my friends is a fellow Elvira cosplayer, and she's had her pictures deleted, and I'm just like, oh no, I'm making this post. This has to happen. If my posts get deleted for nudity, then there's someone out there that is purposely going after, women showing off their cleavage.
Yeah,
and
there's no reason for that. It's like Steph. Steph posts all those freaking covers on his Instagram, and nobody ever says anything. He's up to like 60,000 followers on Instagram now, something crazy like that.
And and it's funny. Like I started collecting. I went from collecting Wizard magazines to collecting heavy metal magazines. Like I've always saw the magazines. I'm just like, oh, that's really neat. And then it's just like, oh, I like the art, and then I like the fact that it was promoting not just independent artists. It was storytellers that I liked learning about, and it like several of the artists and writers of the comic book industry got their start in Heavy Metal magazine.
Yep.
And
Heavy Metal is awesome, and the covers are great for me. I absolutely love seeing the older covers of Heavy Metal. And it's great when you walk into comic book stores and you find those bins where they got the Heavy Metal magazines. I always sort through them. I'm like, oh, I've never seen this cover before. This cover is awesome. Oh, it's only $5. Gone. It's mine.
And I tried very hard to emulate a lot of the art that I saw from these magazines. And I love my foster mom. I love her dearly, but the Christian faith had like, for some people, it's like, oh, that's disgusting. I don't know why you draw like that. It's like, it's beautiful. We grew up to accept the naked body as art.
Yeah.
So comic book art is just another form of art.
Absolutely.
For us to appreciate the naked body. For me, anyway.
Well, people overthink it, And that's get this. I seen the most outrageous news story the other day. They were, instead of breastfeeding in the UK, it is now has to be referred to as chest feeding. And I said, are you effing kidding me? I called my wife and told her, I was like, I just seen the most absurd thing. You're never going to believe this. And it's now they have to refer to it as chest feeding, and the milk is referred to as chest milk. And I'm like, what is wrong with you people? Boobs have been over-sexualized, and now we have to change the name just because the word is bad. I'm like, get the out of here, I'm like, it's a source of nourishment for your young.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't be ashamed to call it what it is, but now we have to call it new. So I'm like, oh, great, pretty soon it's going to make its way over here, and everybody over here, it's going to be a movement. I mean, how do we go from free the tatas to now we're calling it chest milk? I mean,
right?
What the hell's gone wrong?
Like, I don't get it either. Like our world, like, sure, becoming politically correct for some stuff is I'm okay with, but now I think we've gone a little too far. Now it's like we have to make everything PC, and I'm just like, no.
It is what it is, but there's a lot of people that probably aren't going to do it. But I found that absolutely just breathtaking. That I'm like, really? Like somebody somewhere was that butthurt that they initiated that from now on it will be referred to this. It's like people that shame and people that breastfeed in public and that shame them and say, oh, they need to go to the bathroom. And it's like, here, let me give you your plate of food and you can go eat in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And then we'll see how you like about it. The baby people shouldn't have to be forced to do that stuff. And it's ridiculous that, it's the best thing to do for your baby. When we chose to do it with Roderick and Adriana because, with Roderick and his heart condition, she pumped and they gave it to him through his NG tube. that he got. Of course, he wasn't able to eat for the first week because they had him on prostaglandin, and if he would have ate food, it would have rotted his intestines out. But, once he was able to have food, they gave him breast milk because we wanted him to have the antibodies and the strength and everything to make it through the open heart surgery and all that stuff. And it's like, my wife's like, oh, when we go places, I need to take this shawl with me and find a place to go. And I'm like, why are we in a society that we feel like we should be shunned and locked away somewhere to do this stuff?
There is a whole science behind breast milk, though. It's like breast milk will actually develop it, for the needs of the child.
Yeah, if the child has a sinus infection or a bacterial infection, the antibodies and the stuff in the milk change to help the baby fight the stuff off, and that's how they build their immunities. And it's through the antibodies in the breast milk. And and it's just like, my wife we went round and round about it. I'm like, there's nothing to be ashamed of about it. It's just ridiculous that our society has gotten to this. And I don't know how in the hell
they'll shame mothers regardless, whether they breastfeed or bottle feed, and it's ridiculous. Like, okay, as a baby, my mom was honest with me and said that I couldn't process her milk, so she trained me on. She got me on goat's milk, which I don't think I've ever tried goat's milk as an adult, so I don't know. but now it's like I absolutely like I love drinking milk. I don't think I can drink anything else. Like soy, I can't drink soy milk. I can't. It to me is disgusting. But
same thing with almond milk. I tried that. It's horrid.
Starbucks has all these different types of milk. Coconut milk is okay, but I don't think I can drink it every day.
Yeah, coconut milk gives you the runs.
Good to know.
Yeah, if you drink a lot of it. Well, I mean, for a while there, I had to quit drinking like regular milk because of the carbs. Like whenever I had the whole cancer thing, they lowered me down to like going on. They had me down to like I think it was 40 carbs a meal. So I couldn't drink milk because milk is, full of carbs. So I tried almond milk and, coconut milk and all that stuff. And, coconut milk is probably one of the better ones, like you said. But yeah, you drink that, in place of milk every day. And after like 2 or 3 days, your stomach's just like, all right, I can't tolerate this anymore. I'm done with this. Get it out of here.
Almond milk to me it tastes like ground up chalk.
Yep.
And we have oat milk too, and just the idea of oat milk just kind of bugs me because you're like drinking the runoff of water from the oats. I'm just like, oh.
Well, and here's the other crazy thing: like there's like legitimate talk that in the next 10 years that they're going to replace regular milk with cockroach milk, with roach milk. They said it has way more nutrients. It's easier to process, and that it's actually it has more nourishment in it than cow's milk, and it's easier to tolerate. And they said that
interesting
with all the regulations, because they've really cut back on like cattle farms and stuff like that and pigs and all that stuff due to the methane output. It's really screwing with like the ozone and all that. So they're trying to limit these farmers on how many cattle and how many cows and all the stuff that they can have. So a lot of these places are starting to struggle with production. And so like they've been looking into ways of coming up with new sources, and they found this cockroach that's able to be milked, and they started this whole cockroach milking production plant. And I thought that I really wonder if it's a joke, but like all the news stories that I read like seemed legitimate and that we were from legitimate sources, and I'm like, there's no freaking way I'm drinking cockroach milk. Like,
am I the only one picturing like the scene from Alien where the queen is on like a milking?
Yeah, no joke. I'm just like, one day there's gonna be Cockroachzilla from this or something. People are gonna start metamorphosizing into cockroaches or something. And then I heard something crazy on the radio the other day. Now there's this thing. It's spider's milk. There's an actual spider that produces milk, and I'm like, get out of here. How did you find this out? Why did you find this out?
My God.
And what were you thinking? Like, please tell me you're saying so.
I think
please
we can. There needs to be a jumping off point with figuring out what milk is best for the human body. Stick to cow. It doesn't need to come from anything else.
Next thing you know, we'll have bantha milk. No, I'm just kidding. Tauntaun milk.
Well, we all need that blue milk somehow.
Yeah.
Hello, Ed.
What's going on, Ed Williams? Hey, what's going on, buddy? So Ed is one of my friends. He's been one of my friends for a little over 3 years now. We met through Hooked on Comics. He's one of the artists that's on the book. He is the one that I sat down with, and we went over, ideas of what, I wanted the character to look like. And so he helped me. He's the one that really helped me push through and get the image for what I wanted the character to look like. Because, I'm an author. I'm not an artist. You see my stuff will work. It's not the greatest art in the world. But I'm like, as far as, the concept of what I had in my head, I couldn't put it to paper. And Ed helped me out tremendously. We sent pictures back and forth, and we sent ideas back and forth. And, the end result was the piece that he did in colored pencil. And it is phenomenal. Like, I was showing it to Jack the other night on the camera. I was like, dude, look at this. I'm like, you can't even tell it's colored pencil. This is so good. And he's working on this piece right now. So, Ed, I've been bugging him for 3 years to go live with this art. I'm like, come on, man, just get it out there. People are going to love it. So last year, he went live with me for the first time. I'm really proud of him for doing it. He got on, he drew, I moderated for the comments, and, he talked to the audience. And he's actually gone live twice now since then, working on Willem Dafoe as the Joker. Or as I call it, Willem the Joker instead of Dafoe, and it is phenomenal. He's doing stippling for the piece, and if you haven't seen it, go over to Ed Williams' page and check out. He's got a few pictures of it posted. It's Ed's Artworks with an X, no KS. It's phenomenal. Like, I am so in love with this piece. I'm like. So here's the funny thing. So Ed and I have been friends for a while, and I have always said that Willem Dafoe should be the Joker. Like, anytime there's somebody will post the thread and they're like, who would make the best Joker? I'm like, Willem Dafoe all the way.
Absolutely.
And everybody's like, oh, I don't think he would make a good one. I'm like, dude, don't argue with me. He was the freaking Hobgoblin in Spider-Man. Like, he would make a great Joker.
He did a really good job as the Hobgoblin, though.
And his laugh.
Sorry, the Green Goblin.
Oh yeah, the Green Goblin. I don't know why I keep saying
I know it, like, we all want the Hobgoblin, but
yeah. So he did an awesome job with the Green Goblin. I don't know why in the heck I keep saying the Hobgoblin. So he did great with that, and the faces that he makes, and just that one GIF of him where he's like, and that face, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's perfect for the Joker. And so it was just funny because he's like, here's the piece. Yeah, Team Titan, buddy. Hashtag inspiration. Ed's great. He's a great guy. He's really supportive, but it's really funny, and we've been friends for a while. And Ed's like, hey, when we finally did the first live show last year after I had him on, because that was how my show started. Was I was just having the artists from the book on, and people started messaging me, and I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll have you on, whatever, And so it turned into I had to move it to 2 days. But Ed's like, hey, I want to go ahead and do a live draw show. I'm like, all right, cool. What are we going to be drawing? He's like, I got this piece that I was thinking about doing of Willem Dafoe as the Joker. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, you're messing with me. You heard me say it somewhere. Or you seen it? I typed it somewhere. He's like, no, why? I was like, dude, I've been saying that for years. Willem Dafoe needs to be the Joker. I'm like, and you're going to draw this commission? And my gosh, it's phenomenal. Like, it is. His likeness and the stippling piece that he's doing is phenomenal. It is absolutely amazing. I can't say enough good things about it. And I'm super excited about Ed, too. Ed's been talking to me about the project that he's working on, so I'm hoping he can get his stuff going, too.
So I told you earlier about my cats being assholes.
Yeah.
Twinkie's getting to the point where he's knocking stuff over because he's not getting attention. So,
freaking cats.
I know. Come here. little brat.
Like a child. Is that your 2-year-old you were saying? Your equivalent of a 2-year-old?
One of the many, yes. The he's an orange tabby cat, orange and white, and he thinks that the world revolves
around him. Yep. Yeah, I got a black cat, and she is the most loving thing in the world. So we wanted a cat, and so we went to the Humane Society, and I love this. I love this story because we went there and we were looking for a cat, and we walked by all of them, and they're all like, "Screw you, human," And so we're walking through, we're looking at all of them, and they're all cute and adorable and assholes, like you said. And oh yeah, you're welcome, buddy. And speaking of which, also too, guys, he's got some Vampirella #1s for sale. He's got CGC capability, so if you want your book signed and yellow labeled, he has the CGC thing. He can send it in and get it to you. So check out his Vampirella #1. He did Volume 2 for Vengeance of Vampirella #1, and he did a phenomenal job on it. And he's got other stuff for sale on his page too, prints and stuff like that. Hashtag always promote. But
yeah.
We went through, and it was just really funny. She was just laying there, and she came up, and she had like the most pitiful face, and she stuck her little paw through and touched and tapped on my shoulder. And so I stopped and I walked back, and she just rubbed up against the cage and then stuck her paw out and was touching my shoulder. So I was like, hey, let's take her to the little room. Because they have the little playroom where you can play with them and see how they interact. And she was like a little bunny. She was this little bitty thing, and she's one of those long-haired. It's really soft, and like literally, she looked like a bunny rabbit. Like she had the little soft, tufty hair. And so we took her in the room, and she was just bouncing around playing and bringing us toys and fetching. And I was like, oh my gosh, we got to get her. How much is she? And they're like, oh, it's going to be $300. And I was like, what?
Wow.
Yeah, and like, look, I was working 2 jobs. We had an apartment. We were like barely affording food at the time. And I'm like, I want this cat so bad. And I was like, well, I'll try to come back next week when I get paid because I don't have $300 right now. And they're like, oh, we're not sure she's going to be here. She's been here a really long time, and we're probably going to put her down. And so I was heartbroken. And we get home. And so I was talking, we weren't married then, but I was talking to my wife, and I was like, man, I feel really bad. I really hope she's there next week. So we went back next week, and she was still there, and she was so excited to see us. And we ended up bringing her home, and she's like the most loving cat ever. And it's the funniest thing too. I got this video. I have to send it to you. Her tail vibrates when she gets really excited. Her tail vibrates. I've never seen a cat do that before.
My cat Simba does that. Yeah, he'll come into the bathroom and he'll just
it's like, and you're like, what in the world's going on? Are you freaking having a seizure on your butt, or what's going on here?
My cat Athena, she's very much of a lovey-dovey type of cat, but she doesn't like being held very much. She kind of freaks out a little bit when she, I guess she feels trapped. But she showed up one day at my in-laws' place, and so she was like wanting food, wanting attention. And so my father-in-law messages us, and he's like, do you want another cat? And I'm just like, we already have 2 males. I don't know if I really should, go down that route of adopting another cat. So I was a little hesitant, and then he brought her in, and I'm just like, I fell in love with her right away. And she took 2 of the other 2 guys right away as well. Her and Mittens just had this like weird porno relationship going. It was like they cleaned each other, and I'm just like, I don't want to watch this. This is weird.
It's getting crazy in here.
And then, of course, we found out that she was pregnant after we got her, and so she ended up giving birth to 4 kittens. And as the weeks progressed, and I'm trying to find homes for them so that once they are weaned, they can go to their new homes. Joe comes up to me. He goes, we're not getting rid of them. I'm like, excuse me? He goes, we're not getting rid of the kittens. I'm like, we're going to have 7 cats. You really want to do this? So I had to message a couple of my friends. I'm like, we're not getting rid of the kittens. My husband got attached.
Oh my gosh. They're so cute when they're little, and they're so lovey and needy, and they love all over you, and they'll stay and sit with you, and they grow up and they turn into assholes. You know, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
They'll walk up and they'll be like, "Oh, that's your cup of water there, huh?"
Yeah.
What do you think about that? And then they'll walk off.
Yeah. Or Mittens with he'll come up wanting attention, and he'll like whine the whole time. And it's like his tail will purposely go in your face. And then, I got Rusty. I call him my little flirkin. He's a giant cat now. He got fat. He's an orange cat. Why do orange cats get fat?
I don't know. They do.
So he'll jump up on the toilet just before I go to sit down, and it's like trying to move the fat 20-pound cat. I'm like, I should have called you Milnor. Molnor.
Yeah, the unliftable cat. That's great.
So yeah, that's my plight with our cats. Squeaker. The Squeaker is my husband's cat, and she loves him. She'll like be all lovey-dovey to him. He can pretty much do whatever he wants. He'll pick her up and kiss her and like rub her belly. I go to touch her, and she gives me this like glare. She tolerates me.
That's great.
But I mean, like, I love them all. Just it's interesting having 7 cats.
Yeah, you got like the Brady Bunch. You need to put together a video of them each cat.
Oh yeah.
Have the little panels. This is the story of a bunch of assholes.
But yeah, no, like Simba is my cat. It has been my cat for 15 years, and I call him my stud because every so often he'll just be like, "Hey, what's up?"
That's funny.
But oh yes, and now they're gonna start scratching at the door.
Let us in, Willow. We need to talk to you. You didn't give us the right food earlier, and now we will take it out on you. They're like zombies scratching at the door. We want brains, more food, master.
Give us snacks. We know you went shopping.
We can hear you talking. You're not sleeping, which means you're awake and you can come feed us. Hello. We will scratch through this door if you don't give us attention.
Pretty much.
It may take us 4 hours, but we're getting in one way or the
other. So yeah, it's like you have children who are 3 and 5, or
4 and 5. You'll be 6 in March. Yeah.
So yeah, they throw temper tantrums whenever they want something, or when they aren't getting something. My cats are the same way. Joys of life.
That's right.
But I appreciate you hanging out with me. I think I took up enough of your time.
Oh, you're fine. It was fun chatting.
I appreciate you, Russell, and yeah, I'm so proud of you getting your book all
funded in 11 hours. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And I thank everybody so much for that. I'm so humbled by that. Like you said, I woke up in the morning and we launched it at like 8:15 on Brian's show, and I was up till like 1 or 2 in the morning, sending stuff out and finalizing stuff. And so I went to bed late, and I got up at 8, and I was like a zombie. And I'm like, what are all these notifications? And everybody's like, congratulations on funding. I'm like, I did? And I was like, oh my gosh, I did. And I started jumping up and down. My wife's like, get out of here. I'm trying to sleep. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I get to release my story upon the world. And so, yeah, we've got the digital tier, it's $10. The soft cover is $30. And then that tier that you just passed, that 125 tier, not the retailer, but the Xenonanite Titan write-in tier. If anybody wants to get in on that write-in tier, you're going to get a exclusive hardcover with that. That's the only tier that includes a hardcover. There's going to be 25 hardcovers printed. The hardcovers are going to be 20 of them are going to be exclusive to me and all the artists and the editor. So I'll be keeping 5 copies. 15 of the copies will be going to the artist and the editor. And the 5 copies that are on this tier are the only ones that are going to be available to the public. There's one left. They sold quick. And yeah, the first 4 went quick. There's one of those left. So if anybody's wanting to be wrote in as a character in book 2, as I'm doing the rewrite, that's the tier for you. And if you want to get something exclusive that's never going to be printed again, that's got that hardcover that you'll be the only one that'll be able to say, I have one of the 5 books that was released to the public. And then here's all the awesome artists. We've got David Harrigan, we have David Fott, Alfred Trujillo, Doobie Doobie Doo, Armando Ramirez, Wendy Steen Shaner, Steph Wilson, just a phenomenal lineup. Jason So, yeah, even at Revis Fournier, love her painterly piece. She did Wyvernite so beautifully. CB Zane. And then
the art is just beautiful.
And then there's Ed's piece right there. And like you said, that's colored pencil. You would never believe it. There's no stroke marks. It looks like it was airbrushed on there. It is phenomenal piece. And the picture doesn't do it justice. The foil and the hex plates is beautiful.
Okay.
And then there's David Fott's piece. That's the piece with the leg. That's one of the Easter eggs for that chapter. And then there's Finney's piece. Love Finney. Finney was one of the first ones that went live with me when I started Art Exposure 3 years ago. And they do more of an anime style. And I was like, I love anime. I love Full Metal Alchemist. I love Tokyo Ghoul. And so that piece holds a special place in my heart.
Yeah.
And you got all the laser blasts and explosions. And then you got Wendy's piece, which is all explosions. So we got to one-up that. Next piece is going to be just his eyes. That's going to be completely surrounded by explosions.
Okay.
And then you got Chris McJunkin, another phenomenal artist. He's done several commissions for me. He's got CGC capability as well. So, of course, I got all of his encapsulated to protect the art. And he did a venomized Vampirella for me. And it's one of the only ones that I've ever seen. I've never seen anybody else venomize Vampirella before. I'm not saying it hasn't been done, but I've never seen it. And so when he did it, I was like, he sent it over to me. The bats were all normal. And I'm like, no, dude, venomize the bats too. Make them cool. I loved it so much. I asked him if I could get it tattooed on me.
That's right. You told me about that.
Yeah, this right
last
here.
Time you were on my show.
This is the venomized bat that Chris McJunkin drew on that commission. I had it tattooed on me with my Vampirella tattoo, which, of course, that's her insignia with her on the inside of it. And then there's that venomized bat with that long tongue coming out of it.
Yeah.
So, love my Vampirella.
Hey, we all have our favorite characters. I'm a huge Beast fan, so it's any chance I get when I meet up with an artist, I will either get an Elvira print done, or
we talked about that before. You like the book reading Beast. You were the one I think that wanted to get him hanging upside down reading a book, or we talked about that
in an armchair with fuzzy bunny slippers. And
yep, I remember that. We talked about that last year when I think Heather and I were on, like in August of last year, August or September.
Yeah. I'm a huge X-Men fan, and Beast is my character, like Beast and Rogue.
Gambit's my boy. I love Gambit, and it's just because of the fact that he can turn anything into an explosive. I mean, of course he would be my favorite. I was drawn to it immediately.
He was my favorite for the longest time too, and then it just something about Beast. Just I kept returning back to Beast.
Well, and Gambit, they just kind of shunned Gambit and pushed him to the back, and he really didn't exist anymore. And I mean, even in the cartoons, he was real big there for a while, and then they just kind of nixed him. And then, the movie, they've been talking about doing a movie for like 15 years. And every time I get super excited, now I'm just like, oh, they're doing a Gambit movie. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll believe it when I see it.
I
Show
don't know,
me the Red Band trailer.
When it comes to, I don't know, Wolverine just he's like everywhere, and for me he's just been overplayed. I just.
Yep, I agree.
As much as I loved Hugh Jackman portraying him, I'm done with seeing Wolverine everywhere. The Avengers, X-Men, his own comic book. Just he needs to go away for a little bit.
Yep.
But and then Ed's woohoo.
Yeah, woohoo on funding. Yeah, man, it's Ed's been along with me for the entire ride, and he's one of the ones that's really been supportive and helped get the word out. And
Ant-Man and Venom.
Yeah, and if you want anything Venom, man, Chris McJunkin's your man, and Ed does a pretty sick Venom too. Ed's got some really cool art cards and stuff. I've got quite a few of them, and I love his art. His art's phenomenal, but I'm really pining for that Willem Dafoe, that Willem the Joker.
Yeah. I have to contact Steph actually, because I fell in love with his art as well, and
Oh, you gonna get you one of those sweater girls?
I love it. I want one done up in steampunk.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's done quite a few steampunk pieces, and they're beautiful. I think it was for Kara Prime was one of the steampunk pieces that he did, and that turned out phenomenal. That cover.
Yeah,
and of course the Naughty Fairy steampunk playing cards.
Yes. You know what? This is why I go broke around Comic-Con, is because I hang out at Artist Alley all the time, and I'm just like I do my rounds. Yep. I do at least 1 or 2 rounds before I actually start buying stuff. But it's just as soon as I hit Artist Alley, I'm just like, okay, I need that. Anything zombie. There was one guy that did up like I'm not a huge fan of My Little Pony. Like I do like the odd characters of My Little Pony, but there was one that was done up as a zombie. I'm just like, I need that one. So I bought that. Someone was selling the zombie Marvel zombie print on like a wooden board. So I bought that. I think that was like $50. So I have that somewhere in my closet. And I have like a steampunk version of Iron Man. I'm bad when it comes to art. I have art everywhere.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you really like steampunk art, I definitely want to send you Finney's way. Look up Finney the Great on Facebook. Like, you can get a super sweet steampunk commission. So do you know dang it, what is her name? I just totally had a brain fart. From Full Metal Alchemist, Winry from Full Metal Alchemist. So hold on, I'll grab it. I'll show it to you.
Okay. Ed, I will definitely stalk your page later just to see what all your art you have. We may be in talks.
Gotta make sure I'm putting the right one in. Like, you put them in backwards, they don't sound right. So I love Full Metal Alchemist. And when I met Finney and she went live for the first time, she was doing commissions on there. And her commissions are fairly decent. I mean, it's like $35 or $40 for a full color commission. And this was the one piece that she did for me. That's
oh, that is adorable.
Oh yeah, Adonal Elric. And then I was like, hey, you know what would be awesome? Would be a Wenry steampunk idea. So here's that piece without the glare.
Oh, that is
And
so cool.
Ed Alphonse, I mean, it is so the art is beautiful on there, and you can tell it was done in marker because, of course,
Oh yeah.
And it's great. I love it on the back because like it's got just as much detail on the bleed through. And then here's the piece of Wenry in steampunk.
Oh, that is pretty.
Yeah, so these were two of the pieces I grabbed from her because, of course, when she went live, I was like, well, I want to patronize, to your thing because, you got the gumption to go on and go live, so I'm gonna commission a few pieces from you, and they turned out awesome. And so that's why, when I finally, like 2 years later started doing the book, I reached out and I was like, hey, you're going to do a piece for my book, right? And they were
That's
like, yeah,
awesome.
yeah, sure. I was like, that's what I want to hear. So I definitely always love to give artists shout outs, and their work's fantastic.
Well,
if I can get it back in the bag.
I don't think I have any of the art near me right now, but one of my friends, a couple of my friends that I bought art from, Nico Rudolph. If you search his stuff up, he does very phallic art. One is he does ghost dick dressed up in different cosplays. It is hilarious.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
So of course I bought a bunch of that stuff, but he does one of the first pieces that I bought from him was he did the characters from I'm blanking on the movie right now, but he did a 3D print of the Millennium Falcon. And of course, I bought that for my husband. So we're gonna figure out where to put that soon. And just I'm a huge fan of his art. So of course, it's like anytime he brings out something new, it's like, oh, I must buy that. So Nico Rudolph is one of my favorite artists, local. And then there's I'm trying to remember all the people that I bought art from. Evan Queering is another guy that I buy art from. He did something for a commission of me dressed up as Elvira. So he does a really good job at like doing like little pin-up stuff. So and it's just all these artists, like I absolutely love art. So of course I'm gonna end up spending most of my money on buying art at Comic-Con. But yeah, no, Ed, I will again. I will definitely look at your stuff, and I'm sure I'll fall in love and message you about something.
Yeah, and if anything else, you can get a Vira commission from Ed. I'm sure he would knock that out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the funny stories with Ed. Ed, I'm so actually super surprised that Ed hasn't brought up my stick figure art. So when I drew the picture, so I had Ed do a commission on a blank Vampirella for me. I was like, look, I want the mountains, and I want trees, and then I want Dracula in monster form up against a rock with Vampirella in full monster form, holding Dracula's heart in her hand, and this whole huge gaping hole in his chest. And I want the sun to be rising up in the mountains and the beams beaming through on him and his body burning, and then him just in agony, and her just in full monster form with the heart in her hands, and her, her skin tore, and he's got his hand dug into her, trying to take her down. And he's like, well, can you put me a layout? So I drew stick figures, and and so it was so funny. He was like, can I get that signed? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I signed it and sent it to him. And he's like, I've got this forever now. And so every time he brings up the story, he's like, I've got it signed, everybody. He's like, I got the first ever stick figure from Russell Allen signed. I was like, thanks a lot, Ed. So I beat him to the punch this time. So yes, it's very hilarious, and it gets brought up quite often. So if you ever hear him talk about stick figures, it's because of that Vampirella commission.
That's awesome.
I was like, hey, it got the point across. It turned out awesome.
Hey, the stick figure art was a huge thing back in like the late 90s, early
90s. Yeah, you had Stick Death, stickdeath.com. Oh, I frequented that and played those games. They were so much fun.
Joe Cartoon was another thing that was a huge thing. Yep. But yeah, no, I'll let you get back to your normal life.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry, I don't mean to talk to you.
No. But I that's why I can kind of hear my husband snoring in the background. So before it gets even louder, I'm gonna let you.
Be like, is there a train in the background? The trains are running again in Canada.
Joy, so I need to get my office done. I need to move my computer upstairs. But no, joys of sharing your life space with your spouses.
Yeah. So I'll give one last shout out.
Okay.
Everybody, I'm Russell Allen with Russ Explode Studios. This is my guy right here, Raziel with Xenonanite Titan. It's my first project. It's my first written prose. I'm super excited to get it to you guys. It's a phenomenal story with phenomenal pieces of art in it. Got a great set of artists. I'm happy to show off their work, happy to get them out there, and I'm happy as hell that they took on my project and they said yes. I love it. It's going to be awesome. Anybody that has a project, creator, artist, author, I've had cooking shows. I've had all kinds of crazy stuff. If you want to get your work out there, I've got a 3D printer coming on in a few weeks to talk about his work, because as nerds, we all love cool stuff. And I'm like, dude, if you need help getting your business out there, what better way than to come on with me? Because there's all kinds of people that run Kickstarters that might want to print some cool shit with you. So anything you do, if you want to get your work, your shop, your author business, your artistry, anything like that, you just want to come on and chat, send me a message. I am booked right now until mid-March. I have a few dates available left in March, but I'm pretty booked out far. So if you have a project that's releasing, you want to come on and talk about it, hit me up and let's get you scheduled. I love to have you on and show off your work and talk about what inspires you and learn more about you. And let's share friends. Your people will come watch you, and my people will come. Well, your friends will come watch me, and my friends will come watch you, and we'll share friends. It's a mutual benefits. So thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for checking out the project. I'm totally humbled by the support, and I'm really excited to get this to you guys. Book 2 is in the works. It will be, hopefully this fall. If it ends up being November again, I highly doubt I'll run it. I'll wait till January or February again. So definitely go check out the project. You got Xenonanite Titan with cross promos with Nebula Pearl, cross promo with Into the Suck 6. Both of those are coming up on the end of the campaign. And then you have Beowulf #1 with Grant Lankard. It is live now on Kickstarter. It launched yesterday. He's at right around 85%, I believe, right now. We've got an awesome cross promo going together with that too. All of that can be seen from the Xenonanite Titan Kickstarter. Back it, show it some love. Go check out these other creators and back it and get these super cool cross promotions. And if you can't afford to back, do us a simple favor and just share the project. Shares are worth their weight in gold. We understand that everybody has tough times. It may not be your forte, and we can understand that too. But if you share it, you have 30 or 40 friends that may look at it and they might share it out, and it creates a ripple effect. that benefits everybody, and it shows support, and we absolutely love that. So thanks again, everybody, for coming and watching, coming and hanging out. Thank you for looking at the project. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for backing. I'm excited to bring this to you, and let's do it.
And thank you very much, Russell, for joining me today. And you can find me, or well, we can. Where can we find you, Russell? I'm sure all over social media, but
yeah, you can. Oh, yeah, I guess that would make sense to say where you can find me. You can find me on YouTube at Russ Explode Studios, or you can also find me at Russ Explode Studios Books with Heart on Facebook. You can go to Google and type in Russ Explode, and there's going to be like 3,000 pages that come up, and they all belong to me because I've been using Russ Explode since 1998. So that's why I chose Russ Explode Studios. Everything I already have is to do with Russ Explode. So if you type that in, you'll find Russ Explode Studios Books with Heart. You'll find my YouTube, and my website is Xenonanitetitan.com. I haven't updated it in a while because I've been so busy with everything else, but I'm going to start being more active on there. There will be a shop on there once the book is Kickstarter is over. I'm hoping to do an overrun on that and offer books for sale on there as well as some merchandise. So definitely go check it out. Give my page a like. Follow it. We have awesome creator interviews every Sunday and Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. And then Saturday, come check out Blue Ball's reviews on Russ Explode Studios, where tomorrow I will be reading Lord of the Cosmos, issue 1, issue 2, and issue 3, because issue 4 is live on Kickstarter right now. So you want to see what it's all about. You want to check out the cool 80s themed art and the 80s themed story. It's kind of like a He-Man adventure, only with badass, super cool StarCraft creatures. Come check that out tomorrow night at 8:30 Central Time.
Excellent.
Sorry, I know I sound like an infomercial.
I'm glad that you have that all figured out. I'm still trying to learn my shtick here. You can find me all over social media. I am the social media socialite. I am on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. I'm even on Twitch. You can find my show on Hanging with Web Show TV, as well as brain. Woohoo!
NSC Live TV.
Thank you. The NSC Roadshow.
NSC Roadshow podcast tour live.
My cat Mittens is trying to get my attention.
And the Rising Tide Publications Broadcast Network.
I'm just friends with them, but they send, we share each other's stuff. So I'm glad to work with them whenever possible. You can even find my merch on Threadless. So
hey,
yeah,
you got to add some cleavage onto that apron. You got to do it. You've got to do it. You've got to lower that logo and add some freaking cleavage to it. I'll buy 5 of them.
Okay, good to know.
I'll wear it on my show. I will sponsor that.
I will have pictures. Definitely. But yes, you guys. Next week I will have Grant Lankard on my show. We will be talking about all his endeavors, and I'm looking forward to even doing a little I'm sorry I won't be able to have you on the show next week, but yeah, if you happen to stop by all means do so. But yeah, I will definitely make sure that I do the cross promotion promo for you guys.
Yeah, and he'll be on with me tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Central. So come, if you can't make Willow's, come check out mine. If you can't make mine, go check out Willow's, or go back and watch both.
Yeah, you can definitely go back and watch my show on my page on Facebook, Skylar Productions. You can even watch it all on YouTube as well, and maybe on Twitch too. So
yeah, and like, share, and like and share all of Willow stuff. Get her out there. Put her out to the world. We want to get her some more love.
Thank you. I much appreciated. So yeah, you have a great night, Russell. Thank you for joining me here tonight.
Thanks so much for having me. I really do appreciate it.
No problem. And thank you for tuning in.